WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
We're into off-season mode here with the Buffalo Bills. We are hoping to hear from Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott for their end-of-season press conferences either today or tomorrow. No official news on that just yet. The Bills doing some housekeeping with some practice squad guys. They signed tight end Zach Davidson to a reserve futures contract. He played a few games for the Bills this year. Same with practice squad quarterback Shane Buechele. He is back on a one-year deal. Elsewhere around the NFL, after thinking about it for about a week, Matthew Stafford is not retiring. He plans to play in 2025. Ian Rappaport reports that Stafford is going to want a new contract. He's only owed $27 million next season, which is also non-guaranteed, that $27 million. In Cincinnati, their de facto GM, Duke Tobin, doing his end-of-season presser yesterday, said that Jamar Chase signing an extension is the team's number one priority this offseason. He sounded less optimistic when asked about T. Higgins, saying that they want Higgins back, but at a number that makes sense for everybody. Hinted more at it might take a hometown discount for Higgins to stay in Cincinnati, so that we'll see. Doesn't maybe sound super likely. That's the news in Cincinnati. The Sabres are off today. They will be in action tomorrow, hosting Nashville. Rob Ray night. Also, Doug Allen will be back doing the national anthem for the first time in a few years. And news from last night, figure skaters from the U.S. team and coaches were aboard an American Airlines flight that collided with a Black Hawk helicopter near Reagan National Airport. There's no more coverage of this over on our sister station, WBEN. U.S. Figure Skating Organization confirming that this morning. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
It's Jeremy White and Joe DiBiase.
All I'm saying is, as a society, we missed an opportunity to have the upside-down logo represent that your franchise is in distress. Now those hats are cool, as opposed to, listen, I like this team, and I know things are pretty messed up right now. I'm not happy about it.
It's the new paper bag over your head. Show up to a game with a jersey where the Sabre logo is rotated 90 degrees. You just have one ready to go, so if you're mad at them that day when you wake up, like, they lost yesterday, I'm going to wear the upside-down hat.
Here's our billion-dollar idea, Joe. There's a little thing in the back, and you can undo it and rotate it around and put it back on to represent every day how you feel about the team that you're wearing the hat for.
Here, it's a billion-dollar idea.
We are. We shut down the stream. We're done. We're out of here. We're retiring on this idea now.
You're listening to Jeremy and Joe on Western New York Sports Giant, WGR Sports Radio 550.
All right, hey, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
Everything's working here. I'm broadcasting from home. I think it's working. I can see everybody. I'm still on the stream.
Yeah,
the
let me
YouTube
pull
stream.
that
I gotta
up.
make sure I'm in the middle here. Here we go. Yeah. Hey, there I am. Carrier Dome parking. That's all I've got. How do you like that?
Carrier Dome parking.
It's my little Syracuse sign behind me.
What is it now? It's the
JMA Wireless Dome. Yeah, now it's the JMA Wireless Dome.
Okay.
Yep.
You got to get one of those.
Excuse me. Wasn't ready for that one. Yeah. What I don't have as I broadcast from home today, it's normal for us. I broadcast from home on Thursdays. What I don't have, Joe, but I probably should. I should dress this home studio up. I need books. I need a mini football.
Mini helmets maybe in the background.
A commemorative football from like the 1993 Pro Bowl would be nice. Something like that.
1993 Pro Bowl.
Picking like a random game. Or, mini helmets. Yeah, I got to do some work in here. I do have a bunch of Syracuse stuff. It's just over in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
If I moved it to the other side, it'd be better.
My backdrop at home is filled with bobbleheads I would have had as a kid, like Drew Bledsoe. And I've got a Kelly one up there, but also things I've collected from, like, Sabre games over the years, like the Okposo giveaway little mini stick that they did last year for his 1,000th game, I think is back there. I've got the medallions from the 06-07 Sabres all hanging back there that people used to wait for in line at Wilson Farms.
The Wilson Farms medallions.
Yes, those are back there. I think I've got extra of those if you wanna put them up somewhere.
Have you tried to sell those? Like, what's the price on those?
I honestly have not. What do we think those? I mean, someone would be interested in those, right? Like the full.
I don't know.
Hey, the full set of 06, 07 medallions. No, you don't think?
I don't know. It's a good question. Anyway, good morning, Jeremy and Joe.
You actually can have a lot of people are selling them apparently, all around like the $20 to $25 range. There are a lot. I mean, it's incredible almost how many. Like I'm scrolling, how many are available.
They've been listed for a decade for $25. Those Wilson Farms medallions. How much is Yarrow Spot Check?
Just the Spot Check one?
Just once. Oh, is the whole set $25?
No, this is the whole set for $25.
Well, I feel like a lot of people thought they'd be worth a lot more than that.
Yeah, they are. They're not. I mean, really, that team would have had to like win the cup maybe for them to be worth money. I think. Probably.
Right. Well, good morning. We've got Joe Marino, the Locked On Bills podcast today at 7. A little earlier than he normally goes, but a little more time to talk about the Bills with Joe. Joe Marino at 7. Carl Jones coming up at 8:30. We'll talk to him about the Bills. We have expectation to hear from the team a little bit today, so plenty to get to. You have anything top of mind? Are you ready to move past the game?
I feel like I am ready to, and I also almost feel like it's not time yet. Does that make sense? Like it's the off season is so long that I kind of want to get to what are they going to do to supplement the defense. I'm wondering about their willingness to go for a bigger name running back in addition to Cook. What they'll do at receiver with Cooper. Like I am ready for all that, but I don't know. I don't think is everyone mentally past the Chief game yet?
I don't know. Mentally past the Chief game. Would it be different if it had been Baltimore that they lost to in this game? Right? The Chiefs, don't we want to move past the Chiefs as fast as possible because it's just always the same thing?
Yeah.
It's always the same.
So maybe I think it is the fact that it is the Kansas City Chiefs. If it had been Baltimore, then I think it would have been quicker to get to, all right, well, listen, I'm not as big as I need to be. I've got defensive line problems that I could shore up this offseason. Like, all right, like I've beaten the Ravens before, so I've just got to get back to that, and I need to do a couple things roster-wise. You lose to the Chiefs, and it's the fourth time, and it's much more of they're inevitable, there's nothing I can do, this coach will never beat that coach, and not all of that is ridiculous, but it's just much more of a throw your hands up, whatever, I guess, type of thought for me.
Is the word for that, there's a little bit more of an acceptance?
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like there's an acceptance here.
They've kind of beaten the respect into everybody.
I guess so. Yeah, acceptance. Well, there's the game, then there's the season, then there's the game in the context of the season, because we could look back. Yesterday on One Bills Live, what they talked about was who's the player that exceeded your expectations the most. Mm-hmm. I feel like I want to ask a question. I got a comment on Twitter yesterday that I made a note to save about Allen and his turnovers and the numbers and all that. And it's got me thinking about a poll that I can put up and a question for everybody out there, and we can talk about it, which is where is it? Mike wrote in. Nope, not Mike. Frank wrote in. Mm-hmm. The idea that Allen's turnovers were so low. I said, Frank, I'm going to change it one more time. It's Damian. The other two guys have other topics I want to bring up.
Okay.
But basically that the fact that they had so many turnover-free games that regression has to come. The Bills had 13 turnover-free games this season. The most by any team in a season since they tracked that in 1933. 13 turnover-free games, the most since 1933. So the question posed to me was, is regression coming? Will there be more turnovers? Because there's no way they can they're the craziest season to not ever fumble, really, right? Josh didn't throw picks. Josh didn't turn it over.
I mean, no fumbles since, was it week 4, I think?
Right.
They didn't lose a fumble maybe since week 4.
How about they had no turnovers in 13 games. And in the final game, the game they lost, they had no turnovers, but fumbled 5 times. Or, sorry, that's not right. There were 5 fumbles to hit the ground.
5 fumbles, yeah. Four of them were the Bills, I think.
Allen had 2 turnover-worthy interception throws.
Yep.
Like, they got lucky to not have a turnover. Anyway, the question I want to ask about the turnover numbers is, was this Josh Allen's best version of himself? Did we just watch Allen peak?
Mm-hmm.
Not to say he's not going to continue to get better. Was this his best season?
I would say no to that question.
No.
I would say this was not his best season. I mean, he was great, and he was, efficient. If you look at, what his yards per attempt was, it was his second highest of his career, right?
Yeah.
It was the highest QBR of his career. Like, you can look at a couple
highest
best season ever not taking sacks.
Yep.
Which also helps, but no, like he had a year with 800 more yards than he had this season throwing the ball, 9 more passing touchdowns, and a higher rushing total. Like, listen, like in that was a year. This is the COVID year, 2020, and maybe that'll never be topped. Maybe he'll never top that because listen, that year he threw 4 more interceptions. Like, if I'm trading 4 interceptions for 800 yards, like, just do the simple math of it. You can't have 800 yards equivalent in 4 picks, right? 4 turnovers. Right. The most you could have is if it was 400-yard pick sixes, it would be half that difference. So it was a great year. Maybe he's had worse years than this one. It was a very different type of year, but I would not call it his best year. Like, I would strive for the season that Lamar Jackson just had for Josh Allen as something that he is capable of, where he's throwing for he's not turning the ball over like Jackson did this year, but at the same time he's throwing for 4,200 yards and 40 touchdowns, and he's still giving you the running because the offense is one of the 10 best that we've ever seen by DVOA. Right. Like I think that should always be what you're striving for with this guy.
Well, the thing about every number you just mentioned is they are all directly tied to turnovers. QBR is turnovers, right? Mm-hmm. Quarterback rating, which is different from QBR, which is or passer rating, whatever.
Passer rating, yeah.
All of them are a little bit. That's going to be turnovers, efficiency, all of that comes down to turnovers. And I want to be careful not to make a season about fantasy numbers. And I also want to be careful not to make a season about the MVP race because, you're laying out the numbers that Lamar had. Allen, of course, had a great year. Last year, Allen had the big numbers, and Lamar had the MVP season because he was so important to the team and they were so good.
Yeah.
And then this year, Allen had that year where the team was good. He didn't turn it over. The efficiency was off the charts for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's another one of these things where they got what they wanted. They wanted a Josh Allen that doesn't turn the ball over. And every single one of these points that's made about how Allen didn't turn it over this year, I feel like I want to include as a big part of that the offense was basically designed that way. It was designed to not turn the ball over. Was it not?
Yeah, it was.
The idea of yak yards, those are shorter throws. That's let the other guys do the work. When we looked at the deeper numbers about Allen and the kind of turnovers he threw, they were downfield. And now I feel like I could line up and knock down 7 different narratives about turnovers. Well, now he's not forcing the ball, right? The ball goes where it's supposed to. I mean, a million different side comments that really all line up with the idea that he didn't turn it over because the offensive design was to be more on schedule.
Yep.
They also ran it more than they had in years past. He had 100 fewer attempts than some other seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of that's because he came out of games, because they were dominating and winning. But I'll be interested to see what people say about this. Whether or not Josh Allen, did he just have his best season?
The other part of it is, I just think you're going to have part of what you started with there. This isn't the same question, but there's going to be turnover regression. There almost has to be. So am I banking on this repeating? Like, his turnover-worthy play percentage was not much lower than it was last year when he led the league in interceptions. He was 3.0 last year. He was 2.6 this year.
Okay.
Like, it wasn't that different. And, I mean, the Chief game was an example of that, right? Like, there has to be some luck involved with turnovers, whether you're fumbling and it bounces back to you or you throw it to a defender and the defender drops it. It could also work the other way. One of Allen's picks this year, I bet, doesn't go down as a turnover-worthy play against Miami, where he throws the ball right to Keon Coleman, 5 yards, and Coleman, the ball just slips out of his hands, goes way up in the air, and Jalen Ramsey is the easiest pick of all time. So it works both ways. And to me, that means that there will be years where you'll have some more turnovers, and what will I want to have to offset that? I'm going to want to have an offense that isn't reliant on screen passes to a bunch of players that aren't very good at yards after catch.
What was you said turnover-worthy plays, and interception percentage is another thing. Like, what percentage of his throws were intercepted? Because if he had 100 more attempts, would he have 2 more? You know,
that's another thing. Yeah,
right. I guess what I'm getting at with all this is, do you want the offense to look exactly like it did? Because if you think this was his best version of himself, then I think those screen passes that you don't like are a fixture. I think they're a staple going forward, right? Isn't that bread and butter? Isn't that just, I call it extended run play stuff, but
yeah, it is. But like, don't they? Because there's 2 schools of thought here. One is, well, I don't want to make him into Brock Purdy or Tua, right, where it's reliant on the screen passes. But at the same time, no, that's right, because the Chiefs have employed plays like that longer than the Bills have, right? Like, the Bills kind of just got to this year. And hasn't Mahomes had like 4 seasons in a row where all the numbers are, oh, yeah, he's throwing the ball short around the line of scrimmage, and there are all these plays that Andy Reid has dialed up for, yards after catch and screens. But I would rather have the Bills' personnel be matched up a little bit better for that. I mean, the Chiefs have speed guys all over. They've been throwing screens over the years to Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, now Xavier Worthy, like these track stars that I'm afraid of. And the Bills just had their season end because they threw 2 screens to Amari Cooper and Dalton Kincaid, and they weren't able to get more than 5 yards.
Yeah, I know. It's funny, like, as I sit here, as we talk about this, like, we're talking about his season, and you can't help but have it drift to the game. And sure, congratulations on September through December. What happened when it mattered, when it really mattered?
And it was a great season of his.
It was a great season. You hate their offense.
I don't even hate their offense. I just think that it's tough to sustain what they did year to year to year. It's tough to...
Doesn't Josh Allen make it not tough to sustain, though?
Well, when you're taking him out of the offense, doesn't that, minimize it more and more and more? Unless you're just believing that, hey, if this starts not going well, Allen will just be there to save the day.
Which is pretty much
like he kind of was. If you want to go back to the game, like, there were things not working about their offense on Sunday against the Chiefs, and what did Allen do? I'm just going to throw a rainbow in tight coverage perfectly in Matt Collins' wheelhouse for him to make a touchdown.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be there to make those plays even when the rest of it isn't working. So that's right. Like, they really can't be terrible when he's the quarterback. Last year, the offense seemed broken at times, and they were still, 9th or 10th in the league. Like, that's kind of their floor. To the turnover point, I think they should be prepared for regression on that front. And when that happens, you got to have another element of your offense that you didn't have.
803-0550 is our phone number. Was this Josh Allen's best season? Maybe the way I should ask it is, did we see this year the best version of Josh Allen? Right now, 65% say yes, this was his best season. And a couple people have commented below, no. I'm not asking statistically. I know statistically it was not. I guess the question is this the best version of him? Because what's the next step? If the idea was, Joe, get the turnovers down. Let's do that. Let's make sure we get those turnovers in check. He led the league in interceptions. Let's get those in check and reap the benefits. That did get them to more wins. Now, I don't know if it's a direct correlation or causation that fewer picks, fewer turnovers, 13 turnover-free games. If you could tell Sean McDermott right now that he could have 13 turnover-free games next year and tell him nothing else,
he'd do it in a heartbeat.
He would sign in blood.
Yes.
Sounds great.
He would do it in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat.
I think everyone would have to, right?
Every coach. It's probably right. Every coach would probably sign up for that.
Absolutely, because, that you saw the advantage that can give you. I just don't think it's very, it was a record.
It was a record.
It was a record. That's how rare it was.
And yet turnover-free against Kansas City was not enough. And turnover-free last year against Kansas City was not enough.
Right. They won the turnover battle in both those games.
Yes, they won the turnover battle and had the lead going into the fourth quarter in both those games.
Yeah.
Like, turnovers, you've heard me say it a million times. You and I are pretty aligned on this. They are an overinflated thing to talk about. The turnover battle got really, really pushed in the divisional round when, every team that lost the turnover battle lost the game. And, look at this. The teams that lost the yardage battle won the games. It's about situations. And, everybody got really tied up on turnovers. And then the Bills and Chiefs played, and one team turned it over accidentally on, like, a drop, a flat-out drop.
Right.
Nobody really is going to give the ball away when you get to the top level. And it's ironically like Chiefs and Eagles. Last time these two teams played in the Super Bowl, what happened? A guy dropped the ball. That was Jalen Hurts. Like, if you make a mistake that big, of course it's going to hurt you.
Right.
But should you engineer your entire offense, your entire philosophy out of job number one is protecting the ball? Because I feel like the Bills successfully did that with 13 turnover-free games.
Yeah. And I don't want to, I'm dunking on the season he had. Probably sounds a little too aggressive. Like, I think it was his second best season. I would give you that. I just don't think I don't think you can call a year where efficiency-wise, there's a year out there, and it was 2020. It was the COVID year. That's a year where he had 100 more attempts and a higher efficiency.
Yeah.
He averaged more yards per attempt on 100 more attempts. Like, I don't know how you could say this. In the turnover, interception percentage was almost the same. Like, it's 1.2 to 1.7. He never else in his career been below 2. So he didn't turn the ball over that year. He threw the ball way more. He averaged more yards per attempt. And all the volume stuff, I think part of the implication of, this is how I got the most out of him was he didn't throw it as much. There was more stuff around the line of scrimmage, right? I mean, that would imply that if he had thrown the ball 100 more times, that it would have been more turnovers, right? That there would have been less efficiency. And I've got a year out there where he did throw it 100 more times, and all of it was still true. So I would still call this his second best year, and that's great. But I don't know. I think that 2020 year, an offense like that, if you're able to build it, I don't think they have it right now, but if you're able to build an offense like that where you're flush with weapons and Allen's hitting on all cylinders and your line is good, that's more sustainable than I just need him to not turn the ball over week after week after week.
803-0550 is our phone number. We'll get to the phones. We'll start with TJ in Toronto on
good morning.
a Thursday, a chilly Thursday. Hey, TJ.
Yeah, the thing about it is mediocrity. The coach, is not a bad coach, but is not a good playoff coach. If you gave Andy Reid a Buffalo team, and he would beat Kansas City, hands down. We need to do something about the coach. I don't know if they're going to fire or what, but you need to do something with that coach because he's not a good playoff team. Because what you do in the year, it's gone through the window. There's no tomorrow. Once you hit the playoff, you win or you're out. So I think we should talk about, how mediocrity is the coach of the Buffalo Bills in the playoff. Thank you.
Thanks, TJ. I mean, saying a coach is not Andy Reid. Yesterday, the afternoon show started to kick up the dirt a little bit on the idea of changing the coach, which I don't think is going to happen for sure. Mm-hmm. And I also want to say that I'm not here to laugh at the idea that if they did, they would get whatever. I'm just not here to laugh at the idea. If someone else were coaching this team, if it were, insert whoever you want, who puts together a better defensive game plan against the Chiefs? Not many people do. Not many people have much success really at all against them. But I it's kind of an unknown thing. We can never know it. We probably won't ever know it. But I'm not here to laugh at the idea that somebody else might have gotten better results by now because what Josh Allen needs, as we sit here and talk about turnovers and whether or not he played his best, is he needs a defense that makes stops in his final game. And he does not have that at all. He doesn't have a defense that gets any stops, really, in his final game. So, there's only so much Josh can do. Josh is the fantasy football player who scores the most points in the league, and then in the playoffs, the other team scores, 200 against him. Josh is playing against Chuba Hubbard and Saquon Barkley in the fantasy championship. Honestly, that's, you've been in a fantasy league before where your team is awesome, and his degree of difficulty in these games, Allen, is off the charts because his defense doesn't get stops. Last year in the AFC Championship game, Lamar lost to Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes put up 17 points. Can you ever imagine Josh Allen losing an AFC Championship to a team that put up 17 points?
No.
So, I'm not here to laugh at it, TJ, but I mean, I certainly don't expect any change. And I also would always want to say, and I always do, if you're going to bring that, bring a name to it. You got to say Belichick or something like that. You got to say a name because they're not about to hire, Liam Cohen for this job.
Right.
Or elevate Joe Brady. Does Joe Brady know someone that can stop the Chiefs? I don't know. Anyway, 8030550. On McDermott if you want it, but on Allen and the offense we just saw. Are you in love with what they did, and what does the next phase of that look like? To keep Allen at his best. If you feel like he was at his best, they got to keep him at his best. 8030550 is our phone number, 1-888-550-2550. Jeremy and Joe on WGR.
Live from the Just Call Jed studios. Injured? Call Jed.com. WGR Sports Radio 550. The official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
We are into off-season mode for the Bills. Still waiting on an end-of-season press conference for Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane. We'll see, hopefully get that today or tomorrow, but nothing official just yet. Bills taking care of some housekeeping on their practice squad guys, signing tight end Zach Davidson to a reserve futures contract. Same with backup quarterback, fourth-string quarterback Shane Buechele. Elsewhere around the league, Matthew Stafford not retiring. He plans to play in 2025. Ian Rappaport reports that Stafford will need a new contract. He's only owed $27 million non-guaranteed next season. Bengals GM Duke Tobin, or de facto GM Duke Tobin, said yesterday that Jamar Chase signing an extension is the team's number one priority this offseason, although he also said that T. Higgins and the team is more of a want him back situation, and he kind of hinted at Higgins might need to take less money to stay in Cincinnati. So we'll see. For the Sabres, they are off today. They'll be in action tomorrow at home hosting Nashville. Doug Allen back doing the national anthem for the first time in years. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet Sports headlines. Kick off 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR550 and get connected to Jeremy and Joe now. Brought to you by Northtown Kia. Check out the 2025 Kia K4 sedan. Named finalist for the 2025 North American Car of the Year.
For a Bills fan, if you told us with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left, the Bills are going to be down 3 and Josh was going to have the ball, we all would take it. Every single time, 100 out of 100, and it just didn't work out. And there's a lot of reasons it didn't work out, but disappointing because you just never know when these opportunities, unless your name is Patrick Mahomes and you go to the Super Bowl 5 out of your first 7 years starting, you just don't know when these opportunities are going to come by again.
Ryan Fitzpatrick on with Eric Wood as, everybody kind of reacts to the season ending and moving forward. It's probably a good thing there's no games this week, right? You don't have to really focus on anything. They're having the participation games, as J.J. Watt wants to call them. Sick burn, A.J. Really? Wow, yeah, okay. So.
The Pro Bowl games, right?
I know, right. I found his comment to be whatever.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, he's talking about from the perspective like who's there.
Yes,
not like what they are.
The fifth alternate set. Might as well call it the participation games. Yeah. Okay.
All right. I mean,
right.
I get it. Like we make like Trevor Siemian turned down a Pro Bowl invite. Like it's, it's happened.
Good morning, Jeremy and Joe. Today we've kind of started with. Did we watch the best version of Josh Allen this season? Was this his best season? Those might be two different questions, but I don't want to just look at the stats and say, well, he threw for the less. And I mean, the fact that you're not getting 30 touchdowns in a year, he's running for a bunch. He also, tush-pushed all over the place, and they went to the tush-push in the biggest moment, and, it wasn't their best day doing that. So you can give us a call on that, 803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550. We kind of got to this, had a tweet from a listener expecting regression, like they'll probably turn it over more next year, and that we shouldn't expect this floor for them, such a turnover-free style. And I'm inclined to think we will see a turnover-free style, mostly. Sure, they might have a few more than this year, but the design of the offense, screen passes don't get picked off. And, the yak plays. The Bills, by the way, I saw stats from Ian Hartitz. Final numbers are in on yak for the season, yards after catch. Mm-hmm. This is to Joe Brady's credit that they wanted to be a yak team, and the Bills finished in the NFL. He ranked receivers, tight ends, and running backs. The Bills finished as the number 2 yards after catch team in football. Mm-hmm. Their wide receivers were number 1. Most yards after catch in football. And now that the season is over and we look back at it, wouldn't you say, well, that's the design of the offense? It's not like the Bills have the best yards after catch receivers in football.
No, right. Does that just mean they did it the most?
I mean, think about yak yards on screens. If you throw 50 screens, those are all yards after catch, right?
Right.
And there was a time where Shakir's depth of target was the lowest of any wide receiver in all of football. So, not to say it's a bad thing. Again, like they designed exactly this. They said they wanted this. When Brian Daboll was the offensive coordinator, they were like 31st in yak, and they said, we want more yak. Now they're second.
Mm-hmm.
Is it better? Do you like it better? Because I do think that is a major factor in fewer turnovers, in having 13 turnover-free games. So 803-0550.
I mean, it got them beat in the end. Like, that's going to be – it's hard for me to think that is the core – can be the core of the offense unless you just have these ultra-dangerous players. They've won. Like, Shakir is an incredible player in the screen game. Everybody else – like, they're lucky that it didn't cost them against Baltimore when in a huge drive they go to a tight end screen to Dawson Knox and the drive ends and now they have to punt the ball back. They are throwing screens to a tight end with a PCL injury, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, why was the pass going to him? They're throwing to a 31-year-old Amari Cooper on one of the biggest plays of the year in the screen game. So it can work over the course of the year, but I would like it to be a part of their offense, and it could be an integral part, but it felt like they were living and dying by it. And to me, that when you have a quarterback like this, like, you don't want Josh Allen as your quarterback if you want a completely screen-laden offense and you want to play like the Dolphins with Tua.
803-0550. We'll get back to some phone calls on this. Rich in Lakeview. Rich, good morning.
Oh, no Rich.
Rich is gone. Who's there?
Want to go to Joe in Tonawanda?
Yes, Joe. Let's do it.
What's up, Joe?
Fellas, good morning. How are you?
Morning. Good.
Yeah, I'm listening to a lot of what you're talking about in regards to the, all the things that whether Josh is going to be better, whether the team's looking, and as far as like saying that, are we over this? No, I'm absolutely still numb. It's almost like a shock that I'm still sitting here a few days later knowing that we aren't going to the Super Bowl based upon everything that went on this year. So as far as me being over it, no, I'm not over it at all. I'm still numb. I'm thinking, you know what, we could be actually looking forward to 10 days or 9 days, whatever it is, to this team being in the Super Bowl, and it's not happened again. And it's just, I am completely numb. I'm a diehard fan for over 50 years with the Bills since I've been 4. I'm 58 now, and I'm still waiting. One thing that I'd like to comment on with Josh, statistically, do you know with Hall of Fame players, Manning, Brady's, the Mahomes, what is Josh's statistic on game-winning drive, which is one of the things that defines greatness in quarterbacks, with the ball, with nothing, the last drive? What is his statistics on game-winning drives? And the other thing, lastly, with the Chiefs, the reason why, and I'll be honest, it's not Mahomes. It's not that team defensively with Chris Jones. Their defense has been better than ours every year. They're winning with defense too. It's not Mahomes, Kelsey, Reed. It's a lot of that, but the Chiefs have one of the best defensive linemen in the era of football, Chris Jones, and their defense is always, when it comes time, Spagnuolo knows what to do, and the defense always shows up with the Chiefs. So, yeah, I think a lot of it, their defense has been better than ours for the last 4 times we've lost. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Joe. Their defense gets, I wouldn't dispute, especially in these playoff matchups, their defense is better. Isn't it about they get one more stop? Just one.
Yeah.
Because the Bills get kind of none, and the Chiefs get one. They got the stop last year. They got the stop this year. You want to say it was Kincaid that dropped it? Okay. Why did he drop it? He dropped it because of the crazy blitz and Allen throwing off his back foot and the ball. Kincaid, if I'm trying to defend him here, he's fielding that like a punt, right? That's not a ball that's tight spiral right to the hands. I'm not blaming Josh here. I'm just like Spagnuolo takes his chances there and gets them off the field one way or another. Like, I'm going to get you off the field. I'm going to get this done. I don't know. Josh's stats on career game-winning drives and all that stuff, all I know on that is that Mahomes is still perfect. And
yeah,
it also is a cheat to say game-winning drive, because if you drive down and get the game-winning drive and then your defense gives it up, well, now you didn't have the game-winning drive. Like, that's 13 seconds.
Right, and if your team's ahead all the time, then you don't get opportunities for game-winning drives
right.
also.
Each game-winning drives in the 13 seconds game, weren't there 5 of them? each quarterback had 2 in the fourth quarter, and then Mahomes had 1 in overtime?
Yeah.
Like, every one of those drives kind of would have been those clutch drives. It's just that your defense needs to stop for you. Like, the Chiefs went down and kicked the field goal and then held the Bills. Okay. That looks like that drive to get the field goal did the job. Anyway, 803-0550. The other thing I thought Joe, or where Joe was going to go, was, you guys are talking about fine-tuning this offense and finding a way. Meanwhile, what about the defense? And
yeah,
I'm going to feel that all offseason because I think it's being largely understated how bad, terrible bad, consistently bad the Bills are at getting stops against Kansas City in the playoffs. It's everybody knows it's bad. I'm telling you, it's even understated. The numbers are disastrous.
Yeah,
they're so horrible at it,
and it just doesn't. I don't know where to go other than
what do we do with
make the roster unbelievably talented on defense. Like that's in hope that I win so many one-on-one matchups per down that makes up for it. Like, doesn't that feel like the only path to optimism on that front right now?
Yeah.
Like, that's maybe where I'm most accepting right now of this rivalry, if you can even call it that, between these two teams. Is just, I don't know that they're ever going to have the answers on that front. The only answer they can maybe have is I need game wreckers at all 3 levels of the field. And that's it. And I don't agree, by the way, that like the Chiefs have not always had the better defense. Like
no, they have the last 2
years.
Last year they had the better defense. This year they had the better defense. Yeah,
but in the first 2 meetings, I think most numbers DVOA would have told you that the Bills had the better defense.
Right,
those
and they
years.
still got roasted.
And they still got right. That's the better point. Is that's a Tyreek Hill Chiefs offense. It's a different one, I know, but there's a feeling now of, well, I couldn't stop them even when I had an elite defense. So if I build another elite defense, am I going to walk into Arrowhead the next time these two teams meet in the playoffs and believe that Sean McDermott's defense is going to stop them?
No, I don't know that I'll ever think it's going to happen. They might win, but the other point that was made a few times is the Chiefs, we don't ever get to see McDermott in a Super Bowl, but the Chiefs get a bye, they get extra time, they can prepare.
Yeah.
Whoever the Bills, if they get by the Chiefs, whoever they get by and play in the Super Bowl, that team's going to have 2 weeks too. So it better not be just a 2-week thing or extra time thing. It better be that, it's Reed. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550. We'll try to keep you updated as best we can on the there's a plane crash in Washington, D.C. that featured in the sports community members of the figure skating community. I saw the U.S. figure skating team, not like the team, but
the organization.
There was a national development camp in Kansas, and they were returning from that, and it appears that they were on the flight. The plane crashed into a Black Hawk helicopter. So we'll keep you updated on anything that we get out of that. Of course, a terrible story from last night. Jeremy and Joe, you can give us a ring. Joe Marino, Locked On Bills podcast, on some of these questions, whether we saw the best version of Josh Allen and the game itself as we continue kind of picking up the pieces and turning forward. It's Jeremy and Joe on WGR.
players. And as a coach, you want to give your players a chance to win. You want to put them in a position where if they go out there and play well, they'll have a chance to win. That's what Coach Parcells taught me is there's always a way to win. You just got to figure out what it is, and you have to give the players a chance.
They don't name it the Star Trophy. It's named the Lombardi Trophy.
Maybe they should name it the Brady Trophy. He won 7 of them.
Bill Belichick.
Let's not do that.
Let's not do that.
Please, let's not do that.
You know, one thing about it's not mentioned enough, Joe. Why do people get tired of the Chiefs and hate dynasties? If you do, one of the reasons is the Patriots. The Patriots dynasty ended a long time ago, and how many days can you go without hearing about it?
Like one, not even.
Oh, there's another documentary about it. Oh, great! Congratulations. Which streaming service has a new version of it?
They're all on TV somewhere now.
All the time.
Brady's
non-stop.
on TV, Gronk's on TV, Belichick's on every show in the world.
I had thought yesterday about this. Is it a coincidence that the two sports that get like the most talking attention on the television shows, the NFL and the NBA, are the two that have had the most famous dynasties?
Yeah,
right? Like the LeBron and Jordan, like it was a Jordan dynasty. We talked about Michael Jordan and the Bulls against both LeBron and the Warriors, right? In their pursuit for how many wins in a season. And in the NFL, it was the Patriots for 20 years, and now we're into the Chiefs. And I don't know if it's a coincidence, if it's better, but man, it just feels like it plays right into the when the Bills finally do win a Super Bowl. If they do, guess what? First question, like, oh, where does this stack up against Patrick Mahomes' best season? Like you won't ever be able to escape it. So anyway, there's Belichick saying they should call it the Brady Award. No thanks. Have you seen the 3 names the Utah Hockey Club is down to?
Oh, is Yeti not one of them because of this trademark thing they've been fighting with?
Yeti is out.
Yeti's out. Okay.
There's a name I had never seen before as a potential name.
Ooh, with the other two, like some of the ones that we had talked about, like the Freeze or the Utah Blizzard, I think was one of them.
Neither of those made the final 3.
The Utah, the Utah Hockey Club is probably one of them, right?
The 3 finalists are the Utah Hockey Club, the Utah Mammoth, and the Utah. I got to make sure I say this right. It's about the mountains out there. The Utah Wasatch.
Okay.
That's the mountain range out there. WASATCH.
Okay. I'm looking at it now. Yeah.
Yep.
I wouldn't know how to pronounce that unless you had just said it. If you're even right, yeah. What? Yeah, I don't even know.
Those are your 3.
Okay.
Those are your 3. So Chris Johnson, Sportsnet, tweeted that last night that Utah says it's not pursuing Yeti anymore. They'll have fans attending the next 4 home games place votes on Utah Hockey Club, Utah Mammoth, or Utah Wasatch.
How do we? Sorry. Do we already hate it because it's going to be tough to pronounce?
I mean, are we going to call them the Satchers, the Wazers?
I don't know what we would really call them.
I don't know. I'm going to guess they probably keep Hockey Club. That's my guess. But the next 4 home games, they vote on the final 3. 803-0550. Joe Marino, Locked On Bills podcast. When we return, you're going to want to hear what he had to say. He went through all of Josh Allen's throws and all of his plays. And, of course, he's talked plenty about the defense and their failures. You're going to want to hear what Joe has to say about this game. I listened to his All-22 breakdown, learned a lot, and you will too. 803-0550 on WGR.
Sean McDermott, head coach of the Bills, joins us on the West Her Hotline.
The insiders call the West Her Hotline.
Happy to welcome our man, Ross Tucker. Al Michaels with us, pleased as always to be joined by Eric Wood.
On the West Her Hotline is Buffalo Bills general manager Brandon Beane.
When the players call, when the coaches call, when the insiders call, the West Her Hotline. Brought to you by the West Her Automotive Group. Welcome to West Her, New York. Sports Radio 550 WGR Buffalo and WKSE HD2 Niagara Falls, Buffalo, 98.5 FM.
An Odyssey sports station.
Broadcasting live from the Just Call Jed studios. Injured? Call Jed.com. This is the official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550. The official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Kicking into off-season mode, we hope to hear from Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott in their end-of-season press conferences, maybe today or tomorrow, but nothing official on that front yet. Some of the housekeeping on the practice squad guys. Tight end Zach Davidson signed to a reserves futures contract. Same goes with practice squad quarterback Shane Buechele. Elsewhere around the NFL, after thinking about it for about a week, Matthew Stafford is not retiring. He plans to play in 2025. Ian Rappaport reports Stafford will need a new contract. He's only owed $27 million next year, and that is not guaranteed for next season. Bengals GM Duke Tobin, de facto GM Duke Tobin, says yesterday that Jamar Chase signing an extension is the team's number one priority this offseason. He sounded much less confident about T. Higgins coming back and kind of hinted at maybe a hometown discount would have to be a part of the Higgins negotiation for him to re-sign in Cincinnati, so good luck with that. To the Sabres, they're off today. Tomorrow, they will be in action against Nashville. Rob Ray going into the Sabres Hall of Fame ceremony before the game. Also, Doug Allen coming back to do the national anthem for the first time in a few years. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
Not implementing a new offense, but really building off of what we've put in throughout the year and things that we like and we dislike, and just trying to tweak certain things. And I thought this year, statistically, if you look at it, it's one of the whatever you can say about it, but the end goal is to score one more point than our opponent, and we didn't get that done. So throughout the entire offseason, it's going to be focusing on what can we do to make that a reality.
Josh Allen, looking back on the game, the season. Jeremy and Joe, good morning. It is Thursday, chilly Thursday, as we move towards the offseason, towards the Super Bowl as well. And joining us on the West Her Hotline is Joe Marino, Locked On Bills podcast, who we talk to usually on Wednesdays. We got a chance to get to him in a bigger segment, more time to flesh it out on the end of season conversation on the Bills. Joe, good morning. Thanks for being with us today.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good to be with you.
There's a lot to get to on the defense. I almost feel like I want to get there quite a bit. I've big questions for you. You know, we talked about this defense matching up with Kansas City in the postseasons. But let's start with Allen, because the question we've started today with, Joe, is was this Josh Allen's best year? Is this the best version of Josh Allen we've seen? And I wonder what you would say to that.
Yeah, I think so. I would definitely align with that. I know that maybe he had some better statistical season in terms of like volume, but I thought his decision making, his taking care of the football, the way he saw the field, I thought it was terrific. And I think there's some missing elements to Josh Allen's game, in particular the vertical passing elements, and I think there's some challenges there with the personnel that he had, in addition to a lot of new players around him. But it was kind of disappointing to not see that be a bigger part of what this team had in its bag. And so the efficiency was awesome, and I think he played the best football of his career. But I kind of come away thinking, all right, where's the meat on the bone? And it's definitely the vertical passing stuff where the metrics are bad. I mean, Josh's vertical passing numbers are literally bottom 10 at best in the most meaningful categories. And so, again, I don't know that that's entirely on Josh Allen. I think there's some ball placement stuff from Josh that needs to be better, but I think this team needs to find some ability to stretch the field and have some plays, have some drives that are maybe 2 or 3 plays, as opposed to it always being 8, 10, 12 plays to go score a touchdown.
When it comes to that, like, are those plays not called? Does he not take those? Maybe, of course, personnel is something to get to. One of the things I wonder, Joe, and laying it out this morning, how his turnover numbers are so far down. I feel like the design of the offense, is this the offense you would pick to limit interceptions? If you're trying to build an offense that makes it so your quarterback doesn't put the ball at risk, it feels like this is a version of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know that I tie the turnovers, being historically great, right? I think that's, we have to acknowledge. It's not just that they
13 turnover-free games is the first time that's happened since 1933.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal, right? And you've heard Bill Belichick recently say, in order to win, you first have to learn how to not lose, right? So I think there's a lot of truth to that, and I think it certainly gave the Bills their best opportunity under these circumstances. I think there is a lot of truth to this being a team that was in transition in a lot of ways, and I think making sure that they were on the right side of the turnover equation was a big part of winning the AFC East and getting to the AFC Championship game and taking Kansas City to the brink and, of course, coming up short. But I think that was an important part of the formula for this team. I didn't think they had as much margin for error as maybe they had in years past based on, a defense that I thought obviously I thought it struggled a lot this year and didn't quite have the horses that it needed to. So I think it's the right recipe, but I think you can still have an explosive down the field element despite – and not turn over the ball a lot. And the thing is, Josh threw the ball deep a lot. It's not like that wasn't on the menu. I think he was 5th highest in deep throw percentage in the NFL. So it's not like it wasn't something they tried to do. It just wasn't effective.
Is that almost surprising then that he threw it that much down the field, wasn't necessarily near the top in efficiency with it, and yet they still didn't really have many turnovers on that front?
Yeah, so I have the number for you. Josh went deep on 14.1% of his dropbacks. Deep means 20 yards or more down the field. That's the 5th highest rate in the entire NFL. All right, so they tried. They tried to push the ball down the field. Just wasn't there. And I think, I don't know, who's the Bills' best vertical receiver, Mac Hollins?
Well, in the Chief game, it certainly was, right?
Right. I think maybe throughout the season he was probably the guy that was on the right side of that. And then Keon Coleman's a jump ball winner. I don't know. That's low percentage no matter what, even if you're the best ever at it. They need a field stretching element. And obviously they have the quarterback to push it down the field. And I think Josh Allen's accuracy, his deep ball catchable ball rate was 48.5%. That's 24th in the NFL. That's not good enough, So he's not putting it in as many consistently good spots for those guys to be able to go make a play. I think all that can be true. They certainly tried to throw it deep. It wasn't effective. Not turning over the ball a lot was a big part of their recipe, but I don't think that I don't think you have to not push the ball down the field to not turn over the ball.
Mm-hmm. Joe Marino, the Locked On Bills podcast, we talk every week, every game, every matchup. Looking back and digging through the film of the offense, Joe, and they put up their points. They got 4 touchdowns. A lot of times you'd take 4 touchdowns and no turnovers.
Yeah.
So at the edges of where this offense fell short, before we get into the defense, at the edges, what happened on Sunday?
Well, I think one of the things that I keep coming back to when reflecting on this game is that both teams scored 4 touchdowns and 1 field goal. The other team had 3 more points because of the point after touchdown plays and how they went. I think for the Bills offensively, and I really went in on this in the All-22 review episode that I did on Locked On Bills, which was Wednesday actually this week. And when you looked at the failed drives, it was, I think you can obviously look and have some disappointment in, maybe how certain players were used or they got away from the run earlier in the game. But I thought the failed drives came down to execution errors. The Bills have to settle for a long field goal because on 2nd and 5, Josh Allen drops a snap. They go 3 and out and do the big punt return, and the Chiefs wind up getting a touchdown because you had 2 inaccurate throws, one to Dalton Kincaid, one to Curtis Samuel, that didn't give you a chance to really extend the drive. You have another situation where there's a drop, the spot. I think there was a lot of just fundamental issues. So I think you could poke holes and say, yeah, they needed to do things differently, but at the same time, I think they needed to make the plays that were there to be made.
Do you think offensively there was any criticism that was deserved on not using James Cook more, both maybe even in the first half and also on the final drive?
Yeah, I think that's a good talking point. Early on, I think the game script probably made them panic a little bit. You go 3 and out, they go 9 plays, 90 yards, and they're even down 21-10 in that first half. And I think as that feels like it's starting to get away from you, I'm not defending it. I'm saying that they probably thought to themselves, we need to make sure that we're keeping pace here and not allowing this deficit to get bigger. And I think that their best way to do that is Josh Allen. And then when they were able to get it to a 1-score game at halftime, they get to stop on the opening possession. There was probably a comfort level of saying, yeah, we can get back to running the football. That was a big part of my recipe. I preached that message all week. I thought that the Bills could control the game with their rushing offense. And I think based on the way that game script unfolded, they just weren't in the position to really lean into it like I think they were capable of. And I think you could certainly look back and say, yeah, they should have. As far as that last drive, which has obviously been heavily discussed, I mean, the Bills take over with 3:33 left in the game. They run it on first down with Ty Johnson. The defensive tackle shoots the gap, makes it the tackle for loss. And so now you're 2nd and 11. Josh Allen has a scramble to get him out of it. And now it's 2:22 left in the game before you run that third play of the drive. And then they did bring in James Cook. And they passed the ball, and James Cook got steamrolled in pass protection because that's just not something that he offers. Mm-hmm. And Josh Allen couldn't get the ball to an open Curtis Samuel because, he had pressure in his face and couldn't find a window to get the ball off. It's batted down. And so, yeah, you want James Cook on the field in a situation where you want your best players and you need to make plays, but he has to be a better pass blocker so that he can be available. You have to be able to be in the right play in those situations, right? Josh Allen has to be able to check and make sure that what he sees, you have the right players in the right position. And if your back can't pass block, that makes it difficult to do that. And as evidenced by that play where he got ran over by Leo Chenal and Josh couldn't get the ball out. And so, now all of a sudden you're kind of chasing it, and it doesn't really open the opportunity to run the football. So I think it's a situation where you could look back at it. And also, James just hasn't been the closer for this team. He had a great season. I love what James Cook gave this football team, and I'm excited about his future. But he was not the closer for this team at all. It was always Ray Davis and Ty Johnson in those end-of-game, end-of-half, 4-minute mode. And, I think that's just they stuck with what got them there, for better or for worse. Whether it's tush pushes and them not working, it got them there. Whether it was James Cook in the role that he was in or wasn't in, it's what got him there, and maybe they needed to have some wrinkles off of it.
Joe Marino, Locked On Bills podcast, Locked On NFL Scouting. Joe, we'll talk towards the draft. I feel like the one question about the offense before we switch to the defense, should they want Amari Cooper back? As we talk about the downfield element, and it seems to be a consensus that whether it's speed, downfield, stretch the field, intermediate, whatever, they need something more out of their receiver core. Should Cooper be on the radar for that, or is it a different style that they need?
Yeah, I can talk myself into a lot of things here. I think Amari Cooper would be a more effective player, of course, with the opportunity to have a regular offseason with the team and not be added in the middle of the year and all of that. I think he's a good player. I do wonder, though, is for what you have invested in Keon Coleman, they're kind of supposed to do the same stuff. And Amari Cooper at this point in his career, it'll be his age 31 season next year. Is he just kind of a big-bodied ball winner that's physical? And, I mean, he's really good in contested situations. But, is that what this team needs? I think they need a separator. I think they need a field stretcher. Even Amari Cooper, when he wins down the field, it's, vertical leverage, stack the corner, and, go win the ball. It's not running away from coverage. So you're talking about the estimations I've seen, which pretty much makes sense, is around $15 million a season. Is that where you want to invest resources? I could talk myself into it, but probably not. I think this team should kind of continue to embrace their transition and lean into more youth. And I think a 2-year, $30 million deal for Amari Cooper, while I think it would help them, I think what they really need is for Keon Coleman to be that player and find somebody that can actually stretch the field with some speed down and lift the roof and stress teams with some real explosive gears.
To the defense, Joe, you mentioned about the tush push and the way they use the running backs. They did what got them there. What did you see from the defense and kind of what their game plan was against the Chiefs? Maybe how it changed when Benford goes out. And would you? Because I've even thought this, and I know I've seen it said about this game that maybe a difference between the Chiefs and the Bills is the Chiefs don't, just do what got them there as often. And would you say that that's accurate after watching this game?
Yeah, I would. I would say that I think when I look at the offense in the game, it's really a lot of execution stuff. When I look at the defense, I do think it's game plan stuff and not having good matchups and not being able to present a more challenging picture for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the guy just got the ball out of his hands rapidly, knew where the space was going to be. They had rubs, they had play fakes. They just did what they wanted. It was easy. Really, it's hard to really convince yourself that the Bills actually stopped them. I mean, they had an unforced fumble. Then Juju Smith-Schuster winds up dropping a pass on second down to put him kind of a tough spot. Milano makes the sack, which was pretty surprising. But, they just didn't have enough resistance. They scored the most points and the most first downs they've had all season against the Bills in that game. And so, they run 41% man coverage. I've been a fan of the man coverage, but at the 20% rate that they've ran it and kind of sprinkling it in situationally, 41%, if they did that for the season, that'd be a top 3 mark in man coverage frequency for the year. They'd be one of the most aggressive man coverage teams in the entire league. And, you're watching Damar Hamlin having to go one-on-one with Xavier Worthy. I mean, that's like chasing a rabbit for Damar Hamlin. He can't do it. Travis Kelce, that's not a good matchup. And, when you have that combined with rubs, combined with play fakes, combined with Patrick Mahomes, who can obviously facilitate, I mean, it was a disaster situation. And, Mahomes was like 12 of 14 against man coverage and got the ball out in like 1.77 seconds on average. You just didn't have enough resistance there. And so, yeah, I don't think the players were in their best position to be successful. I thought there were a lot of matchup problems. But I think the part of the equation that you wish were different is that you got more impact from your front. But, I mean, Mahomes got the ball out of his hands so quickly, there wasn't a lot of opportunity to truly get home. But maybe if you had some better coverage options, that gives the rush a little bit more of a chance. You hear Sean McDermott talking about marrying the coverage with the rush. Well, you're certainly not doing that when you're giving up quick separation and not allowing your front to get home. So, yeah, they needed a different recipe. And, Mahomes goes out and has the highest dropback success rate game of his career. Like, that's his career, a 99th percentile game in dropback success rate in the history of the league. Like, yeah, obviously the Bills had the wrong idea defensively, and I think they figured it out a little bit in the second half. Maybe that was a little more circumstantial, but yeah, they got to give themselves a better chance by playing a little bit better defense. And, this is for all that this team accomplished this year to be in the position that they were, to have a bottom 4 third down rate on defense in the entire NFL, to give up the 4th most first downs in the NFL. Kind of crazy, but it's unsurprising to me that was an issue all season long and cost you in the biggest moment.
The $1 million question, Joe, like we talked weeks ago, maybe even going into this game, like, are you worried about their defense? And your answer was yes, you always are, because in the playoffs, this is what happens. Mm-hmm. We've gone through it before where, well, it was Leslie Frazier wasn't being aggressive enough, and then it was injuries to the linebackers, and this time it's maybe Benford and Rapp make a difference. But, man, there are a couple consistent things that are happening, and I think Sean McDermott is a good coach, but I'm starting to see a little bit of a lot of, guys like you, football guys that do the tape and say, listen, Patrick Mahomes is an all-time great. We know that. But this guy is getting no resistance against the Bills consistently. And what is the answer? I mean, the answer will probably be better players, but should Bills fans believe in Sean McDermott against Andy Reid at any spot here? Because Mahomes and these games, it's not even close. They do not get stops.
Yeah, it's certainly disappointing, and I understand anybody that would say, hey, Sean McDermott's a defensive-minded head coach, and he's had a lot of cracks at this opportunity to slow him down, and he doesn't feel like you're getting any closer to it. I think that's a fair criticism. I think Sean McDermott should be accountable for that, and he's got to figure that out. I would say that on the other side of that, for as disappointing as those performances are, I mean, I think the Bills have given him hell the last 3 times. Overtime loss and 2 3-point losses where the offense had the ball at the end of the game with a chance to go have a game-winning touchdown and couldn't do it. So, for a lot of these conversations that we're having, it's like, man, they're still right there. And it's not like this is only a Bills problem. Mahomes is 18-3 now in the playoffs. And they're beating everybody, and so I think the Bills have been the biggest threat to them, but obviously coming up short. And even if it's just short, there's a disappointment level to it.
Don't you think, like, maybe, Jerry, you're about to make the same point, like that maybe the frustration is you see Houston hold them to 212 on offense. You see, even in the AFC Championship, like they lost, but Baltimore forced 6 punts on the Chiefs. Lou Anarumo shut them out for a half that if you just had one day like that, then you'd have beat them by now.
Yeah, I agree. It's extremely disappointing, and I think structurally their defense is really, like, the way that they want to play defense, it's reliant on a lot of impact from the front. And I just don't think they've gotten it to the level that they need to. And that's their fault too. Like they're the ones that have assembled this collection of talent, right, that has been okay. I think they've got some Robins. They just don't have a Batman. I think Rousseau and Oliver are good, like, secondary pieces of what you have, but you need to have a dude. And if you had a dude to go with those guys, they would be even better. And I think that's what it comes down to. Like, they've missed on their investments in the front, or they haven't quite been the high-level impact players that they need to be. And I think structurally the way that they play defense with, light boxes, a lot of nickel, a lot of dime, you need that front to be highly disruptive, and I think they've just been average.
Well, Joe, so consensus on the offseason is time to find some blue chippers, however you do it. I mean, I think all Bills fans would agree. Good organization. It's run pretty well. People in charge are doing a pretty good job. They're getting really far. It's just about getting over the line. It's about doing what it takes to find the guys, alpha blue chipper, however you want to say it. Like, they got to find the difference makers, a game wrecker, whatever it costs.
Yeah, I think the Bills need to be in on that. I just tweeted out, some of this Trey Hendrickson stuff. Mm-hmm. Go trade for him. Go see if Max Crosby's available. I think they got 3 pretty high picks. They got a 1 and 2 twos. Whatever you got to do, go get one of those players. Look at whatever you need to do to find that impact, because I think there is some reality to that where they need some more difference makers. And I guess to provide good context, I think this was a transitional year. I think that they overachieved. But they do got to find those next guys that can really be high impact guys. And, like, it's nice to have a lot of good players, but you need to find a couple of great players for this team to give yourself a better chance to win.
And I think a conceptual question is, like, the Vaughn deal is kind of this, right? And Vaughn didn't work out because he got hurt. But when it was working, like, would the Vaughn deal indicate to you guys that Bean would do it again, or is that a cautionary tale and maybe he'd be hesitant to do that again?
Well, I think it's just unfortunate that he blew out his knee, because I think for however many games, 12 games or 10 games, whatever it was, I thought he was exactly the player that Brandon Beane signed him to be. And unfortunately, he got a knee injury. It took away from that season and really cost him the next one. And the next thing you know, he's 35 and he's just a designated pass rusher that's just okay. So I think it is a cautionary tale, but I do think it's probably more circumstantial. I mean, blew out his knee, and that took away from where he was going. I would hope that it wouldn't, because I think you got to find those players, and so try to do what it takes and see what you can pull off.
Joe Marino, Locked On Bills podcast, Locked On NFL Scouting. Joe, thanks very much for all the help all year. We'll talk free agency, draft. We'll connect soon down the line.
Sounds good, guys. Really appreciate it.
Joe Marino, Locked On Bills, Locked On NFL Scouting. You can, of course, find those where you find your podcasts and subscribe to all the ways that Joe is sending out info to Bills fans. His all 22 reviews are great. Highest recommendation are thanks to Joe for joining us the entire season. What do you think? Do you think that Vaughn deal would be a sign he would do it again?
I think I totally think. Maybe he would be – the cautionary tale part might be he wouldn't do it again with someone who's 34.
Okay. There's a name. There's a name that Pro Football Focus laid out as basically in the same kind of scenario Vaughn was in when the Bills signed him. He's a free agent. He has a Buffalo connection. I'll tell you who it is next.
WGR550.com. WGR Sports Radio 550. The official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Offseason mode for the Bills. Still waiting to see when officially we'll hear from Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, but would expect that happens in the next day or two. The Bills signing tight end Zach Davidson to a reserve's future contract. Also, same goes with practice squad quarterback Shane Buechele. Davidson had played a couple of games for the Bills this year when Kincaid was dealing with injuries. After thinking about it for a week, Matthew Stafford not retiring. He plans to play in 2025. Ian Rappaport reports Stafford will need a new contract. He's only owed $27 million non-guaranteed next season. Bengals de facto GM Duke Tobin says that Jamar Chase signing an extension is the team's number one priority. This offseason, he sounded much less confident about T. Higgins coming back this summer. He's scheduled to be a free agent. Sabres are off today. They will be back in action tomorrow, hosting Nashville Rob Ray Hall of Fame night tomorrow at 7 against the Predators. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet Sports headlines. Kick off 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR550 and get connected to Jeremy and Joe now. Brought to you by Northtown Kia. Check out the 2025 Kia K4 sedan. Named finalist for the 2025 North American Car of the Year.
I think it's just unfortunate that he blew out his knee, because I think for however many games, 12 games or 10 games, whatever it was, I thought he was exactly the player that Brandon Beane signed him to be. And unfortunately, he got a knee injury. It took away from that season and really cost him the next one. And the next thing you know, he's 35 and he's just a designated pass rusher that's just okay. I think it is a cautionary tale, but I do think it's probably more circumstantial. I mean, blew out his knee. That took away from where he was going. I would hope that it would, because I think you got to find those players. And so try to do what it takes and see what you can pull off.
Joe Marino, Locked On Bills podcast. It's Jeremy and Joe. Good morning. I'm broadcasting from home, as I do on Thursdays. My home setup is not nearly as cool as Bulldog when he would be in the attic with beautiful guitars.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's like the corner basement. Outside this door where I am is a beautiful child's paradise where there's jungle gyms and ball pits, and it's a disaster. But I am sequestered away. It's not as beautiful as Bulldog's. Anyway, that's Joe Marino on Von Miller. And the reason we bring that up is because going to break, teasing the idea of the Bills defense has too many Robins, not enough Batmans. Like, you need game wreckers, guys that are going to be difference makers. And, Joe, I was thinking about it during the break. The arc of the Bills, right? The way that it has gone is they get to a spot, they're pretty good, and then they add to get better. That's the Diggs trade, right?
Yeah.
We're pretty good. Diggs. Bam. Next level. Time to go. And then they got to 13 seconds, and wow, we're really close. Next move, bam, Von Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two pretty big moves to push forward.
Yeah.
And I think it would make sense for anybody to say this offseason they're kind of at a similar spot. AFC Championship game, everybody's coming back. We're nearly a fully formed team.
Don't have $60 million in dead cap or whatever it was.
Yeah, push in a little bit. So whether that's, Joe mentioned the idea of Max Crosby or Myles Garrett or Trey Hendrickson. Those are guys you'd have to trade for. There is a free agent, and I was at Pro Football Focus's website looking at free agents, and the write-up on this player was he's enjoyed a late career resurgence over the last 2 seasons. He can still be a force as a pass rusher and a run defender. 88 quarterback pressures marked his highest total since 2016. That was in 2023. His pass rushing grade was his best since 2020. His situation entering free agency is reminiscent of Von Miller back in 2022. Projected salary, 2 years, $45 million, Khalil Mack.
Well, that's very different than Von for salary, at least. But the circumstances otherwise seem pretty similar.
Right, that's $22 million a year. And listen, if I say Khalil Mack, I mean he went to UB.
Yeah.
And he was taken right after the Bills took Sammy Watkins. Oh, yeah. He's older. He's probably not as good as Myles Garrett. He's probably not as good as Max Crosby. And you'd see how much you have left. But you don't have to trade for that guy. He's just a free agent.
Right. How many Bills fans have wanted to see him in a Bills uniform at some point for a decade?
Yeah, you wonder.
So you'd have that front.
You wonder if he'd be open to the idea, right? Because, come on, he played his college ball here, and I feel like I've heard him say he thought the Bills were going to take him.
Yeah, I've seen him come back for UB stuff once in a while. So like he's been back to the area, for alumni stuff, I think, or maybe even his brother played for UB, I think, for a little bit. Maybe that had to do with it. So yeah, I wonder what his motivation would be. But other than, even if he didn't have the connection, it would be, hey, I'm 33.
Yep.
I've never really been on a great team. And this team that's great needs a pass rusher. Like, all right, like the being more familiar with the area. I mean, maybe he's only super familiar with like Amherst. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
but having a little bit of some familiarity on some level, I feel like it's got to be some bonus.
Yeah, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler said the Falcons and the Panthers are two teams in the market for Khalil Mack.
It depends. Does he want money, or does he want? Well, if he wants money, the Bills maybe would do it. Like, they paid Von Miller more than anybody else was willing to. So, like, sure, like, the Panthers might be desperate and say, oh, we'll pay whatever you want. But the Bills have been pretty aggressive on that front as well. So, yeah, I like the idea. I mean, I think, was it 2 years ago? He had a year where he had, like, 5 sacks in a game, but all the underlying numbers were like, this dude's just doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
And then... yeah, like that PFF mentioning his last 2 years. I mean,
That's pretty good.
His win rate this year, he was 25th in the league amongst all pass rushers, just ahead of Brian Burns. Like, he had a good year.
It's a name. It's an idea.
Is he, though, like well, I guess you wouldn't do that and something else big, would you?
Well, what would you rather do?
I guess my hopes are actually higher than that.
Like for Myles Garrett or Max Crosby?
Yeah, Garrett, the GM said, like, we're not trading him under any circumstance. Okay, we'll see if he tells you I want to be traded definitively, and then we'll see what you do.
And Max Crosby, you had Pete Carroll shout him out at his introductory press conference. Trey Hendrickson's a name here because he's in the final year of a deal, and he did ask to be traded. There's a scenario. You're the Bengals. Are you trading with the Bills?
If I'm them, I'm not.
All right, I'm not either. They're in my way. If I'm the Bengals, I'm planning on being back next year in the playoffs, and I'm not giving the Bills a guy to help beat me.
They have... Didn't they make a trade with the Chiefs? Who was the lineman? Didn't they? Or was it Orlando Brown, maybe?
Maybe.
Or that might have been a free agent deal. Not a trade. I don't know if they would do that. I mean, they don't operate like a normal organization, so would they just take the best offer and not care who it was from? I could see that. So I wouldn't want to rule that out. Hendrickson is a good name for this. He's a little older than, I think he's 3 years older than Max Crosby. Like, Crosby might be my favorite idea because he seems to be the most realistic and also not like I'm giving up, 3 first-round picks or something wild, which might be what Garrett would cost.
I feel like I got to plan for at least 2 first-round picks.
Right.
I mean, the Bills' first-round pick is 30th. I saw one potential Crosby, like, who says no? Somebody tweeted out a package, and it was 30th, a second, and a third. And I think that's not enough. This guy is a premier pass rusher in the league. It probably takes a first-round pick if that pick is in the middle, never mind 30th.
Well, Mack, as we were talking about him, when he was traded to Chicago, that was 2 first-round picks. The Bears gave up 2 first-round picks to get him from the Raiders. So that was the cost then, and that's when he was like the best pass rusher in football. Mack might feel more realistic than all of these. I think Bean with the sunglasses, right? Like I want to believe that he could get a bigger name than Mack at this point, but that would be like the minimum for me. Like the way that Joe just talked about how, like, their defense, they kind of build a game plan reliant on winning up front. Okay, you got to have something better than what you just had. And Mack would answer that. Like, to me, sure, I might hope that they could get a more premier level player that's in the prime of his career. But if you told me right now that like their big move on the D-line would be Khalil Mack, then that would be just satisfactory enough, I think. He's still good.
Yeah. I think the general consensus is it seems to be, you might want the receiver on the outside that gives you speed. That doesn't have to be a massively big move. That can be a draft pick that you like out there, and maybe you sign some veteran. Who knows? But the defensive piece, Joe, I think a big splash move is what we're talking about. Whether that's, Javon Holland in free agency, is that somebody you like? I don't know if that's the right fit. Just saying, like,
he's a great player.
Right. I'm going to be looking at every single defensive free agent list and wondering where Bean's biggest move is. The biggest move, like, here's another way to say it. What was their biggest move this offseason? It was sending a guy out. It was trading him away and eating dead cap. And their cap's in a better spot. I think their biggest move this offseason will be about an acquisition. Right? It'll be we'll have a name here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's defensive end, safety, corner.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. It'll be somebody that's not a rookie, right? Like, I don't think we're entrusting all the improvement from this year to next year or whatever it would be, especially when thinking about the Chiefs specifically, like getting to a place where, I'm going to beat them this time because I've got blank guy that I just drafted at the end of the first round. Like, that's fine. Now, you hope that guy hits, but an acquisition of some monster level, I think, is where my hopes would reside, and I want to believe that they'll do it. Like the Vaughn thing, that they did that, and even Cooper this year. Like, even when their assets are not flush, they still want to add the help that they need. Douglas the year before and Diggs way back when, like different levels of players. But when they think they need a good veteran player, they go out and they get it.
Yeah.
And Bean's usually pretty good at getting that done.
And they're qualified. Like, they've got the chops to get him with money, with a winning program, with, Josh Allen, with all of it. There's reason to believe that they can get it done. So it's going to be a big offseason for Bean. Tommy in Florida is up. Hey, Tommy. Good morning.
No, Tommy there?
Hey, guys.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey, sorry. I think, obviously the loss sucked, but looking at it, it's like the defense was at critical moments, man. Just didn't stick to their fundamentals. Specifically, like, edge rushers just kind of didn't contain the play. Like, didn't stay outside, didn't stay home like they should have on some of those, I guess you'd call pistol formations with the three backs. And there's also, like, Bernard getting beat by, because he got sucked in and gets beat by P. Ryan there at the end of the game. So, like, those critical plays is, I think, it seems to always happen, and it's probably the most frustrating thing to see. And I don't know what happened to where this defense just kind of just got out of place so much. And, that's my opinion why they did stop them in the second half a couple times, but it just right there when we really needed it, it hurt. It hurt to see them just not be on their P's and Q's like we're used to. That's all I really got to say. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, Tommy. There was definitely, I'm thinking about the defensive line for that. There were a few times where Mahomes would escape the pocket where guys on the defensive line are just falling down.
Yeah.
And then he's able to scramble for a first down. The line really didn't show up again. They had, looking right now, they had in that game 14 pressures, which is 8 fewer than Houston had the week before. And if you go back to, I wonder how that compared with the Bills' regular season game. The Bills had 18 in the regular season game, so I guess not super, super different from that one. But part of this game was, hey, you might be able to get Mahomes on the ground more than you ever have before, and they didn't really get to him. They didn't really win those matchups against that line.
Yeah. 803-0550. Thanks, Tommy. I just retweeted out. It's chart season, it's off season, it's chart. And this one hurts, Joe. It's Football Insights put like EPA for your quarterback in their playoff losses and the EPA that your defense gave up in those playoff losses.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen is just way at the top. It's like, oh, look, these quarterbacks, when they lose, it's because their defenses are terrible. And the guys in the top quadrant up there with Allen, it's Allen, Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson. Not all playoff quarterbacks losing a game are created the same. And what you see in Josh Allen is he has the highest EPA per play of any quarterback in losses, and his defense allows the most of any quarterback in those losses. Like, You cannot overstate it. I feel like there's a numbing to it. Because it's Mahomes, we think, well, that must happen to everybody. It doesn't.
Yeah.
803-0550 to join us. Jeremy and Joe coming up. Carl Jones joins us at 8:30 to do a little more football breakdown. When we return, got a couple things for you. The NBA considering a fundamental change to the way the game is played, like a big or small change. I guess that's a debate. Anyway, we got plenty to get to.
PGA Tour also considering a fundamental change.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, all these leagues, trying to, keep it more interesting. And the NBA, their answer is less basketball. We'll explain that next.
TireRack.com.
As we get more involved in global basketball, the NBA is the only league that plays 48 minutes. And I am a fan of 4 10-minute quarters. Not sure that many others are. I mean, putting aside what it means for records and things like that, I think that a 2-hour format for a game is more consistent with sort of modern television habits.
Adam Silver, NBA commissioner, on the idea of dropping NBA games to 10-minute quarters, getting it in 2 hours. I saw backlash on this, and I don't know, like
his 400th game yesterday due to injury. 400th missed game. He has now made $125 million in total earnings just in games sitting on the bench.
That's pretty good.
400 games.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
803-0550. Quick follow-up to the Utah Hockey Club naming their team. So in the next 4 home games, fans will go in and they'll choose Utah Hockey Club, Utah Mammoth, or Utah Wasatch.
Mm-hmm.
The mountain range, that's what it's called. If I'm mispronouncing it, I apologize. They get an iPad, Joe, and they get not just the name, but logos, imaging, everything. So you get, it's not just voting on letters. You are getting some branding, some colors, some which would be, that's would be pretty cool to go to one of these games. Imagine I'm buying tickets to one of those games. I want to have a vote.
Yeah. I also see that it's basically this one, the Wasatch, is their replacement to Yeti.
Yeah.
Because they would allow them to continue to use Yeti as like the mascot. So the logo and the mascot would be a Yeti, but they'd be called the Wasatch.
It's the mountain range. I believe I read that it's the indigenous word for mountain pass. Like it's got ties to the region. So it would be different. I would like that one, even though it might be hard to say. I would like it.
We'd probably get used to it pretty quickly, I think.
Sure, it's more Utah than Kraken is Seattle.
Yes, that's probably
it's more Utah than Raptor is Toronto, which it's fine. Whatever.
Lakers in Los Angeles.
This is where they moved. This is where I'm being the cranky old man. I'll stop. All right, 803-0550 on is this season Josh Allen's best season? Posted a Twitter poll on that. Anyway, Jeremy and Joe on WGR. That's Buffalo Bills General Manager Brandon Beane.
When the players call, when the coaches call, when the insiders call, the West Her Hotline, brought to you by the West Her Automotive Group. Welcome to West Her, New York. Sports Radio 550 WGR Buffalo and WKSE HD2 Niagara Falls, Buffalo, 98.5 FM.
An Odyssey sports station.
Broadcasting live from the Just Call Jed studios. Injured? Call Jed.com. This is the official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550. The official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Kicking into off-season mode, we hope to hear from Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott in their end-of-season press conferences, maybe today or tomorrow, but nothing official on that front yet. Some of the housekeeping on the practice squad guys. Tight end Zach Davidson signed to a reserves futures contract. Same goes with practice squad quarterback Shane Buechele. Elsewhere around the NFL, after thinking about it for about a week, Matthew Stafford is not retiring. He plans to play in 2025. Ian Rappaport reports Stafford will need a new contract. He's only owed $27 million next year, and that is not guaranteed for next season. Bengals GM Duke Tobin, de facto GM Duke Tobin, says yesterday that Jamar Chase signing an extension is the team's number one priority this offseason. He sounded much less confident about T. Higgins coming back and kind of hinted at maybe a hometown discount would have to be a part of the Higgins negotiation for him to re-sign in Cincinnati, so good luck with that. To the Sabres, they're off today. Tomorrow, they will be in action against Nashville. Rob Ray going into the Sabres Hall of Fame ceremony before the game. Also, Doug Allen coming back to do the national anthem for the first time in a few years. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
You know, I think there is a lot of truth to this being a team that was in transition in a lot of ways. And I think making sure that they were on the right side of the turnover equation was a big part of winning the AFC East and getting to the AFC Championship game and taking Kansas City to the brink and, of course, coming up short. But I think that was an important part of the formula for this team. I didn't think they had as much margin for error as maybe they had in years past. I think you can still have an explosive down-the-field element and not turn over the ball a lot. And the thing is, Josh threw the ball deep a lot. It's not like that wasn't on the menu. I think he was fifth highest in deep throw percentage in the NFL. So it's not like it wasn't something they tried to do. It just wasn't effective.
Joe Marino of the Locked On Bills podcast earlier this morning on with me and Jeremy. Good morning. 803-0550 is the phone number. Looks like it might be okay out today. A little mild, not super cold as it's been in the past couple of weeks. I don't see the sun, though, or anything like that. We are just over a week out from the Super Bowl. A lot of people boycotting the Super Bowl. I'm getting more friends that are like, yeah, I don't know if I believe them, though. The guy that tells you right now, I'm not watching the Super Bowl, you're not believing them, I'm assuming. Like, some maybe really won't, but I'm not buying it. I'll believe it when I see it, that you're not going to show up and watch this game and root against the Chiefs getting a three-peat. Really, we all should, you want a positive spin on this season? Thank goodness the Bills beat the Chiefs in Week 11. Because if they hadn't, remember, their only other loss of the year was Week 18 when they had all backups in and they were not trying to beat the Broncos at all. So had they been trying, maybe they would have won it. Thank goodness the Bills beat the Chiefs in Week 11, because if they had not, we would have to suffer through not only the Chiefs approaching a three-peat, but also the first complete undefeated season since the 72 Dolphins. 20-0, right? We would be on our way to that. We would be on our way to, if they win, then they're going 20-0. Had the Bills not beat them, I know I'm assuming they would have beat the Broncos and maybe they wouldn't have, but I don't know. Home against Denver in Week 18. If they were going for it, I'm guessing they would have won that game. They saved everybody from that, at least. On Marino's point there, if you want to call in on what we were talking about early this morning, I'm going to reset this on, is this the best version of Josh Allen that we just saw this past season? And a lot of people are saying yes. Jeremy put a poll up, and it's like 65% yes, 35% no. I would be in the 35% no. Part of the reason why is exactly what Joe Marino was talking about in that clip. They were good. They were great. Their offense did a lot of things. They ran the ball as well as they ever have with this coach and this quarterback. They were as good as they've ever been with this coach and quarterback in their yards after catch game. And I still think they could be a lot better on that front. I think the designs were good. I think the plays to Shakir were great because he is so good at it. But any other time they were running it to Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, Amari Cooper, even Curtis Samuel at times this year, although that might have been injury-related. Those yak plays, those screens, they were not that efficient unless they went to Shakir, and then they were tremendous. But all that being said, they used to be terrible at all this. They didn't even have the Shakir plays before, so it was their best yak team. They took fewer sacks than ever. Their line was as good as it ever has been. Allen turned the ball over less than he ever has. But what were you missing that you really could have used in that final game against Kansas City? And this is why I would not say it was his best year. I would say it was his second best year. But, man, that 2020 season where, you think Allen was efficient this year, and he was. He had the same level of efficiency and almost the same rate of not turning the ball over in that 2020 year while throwing the ball 100 more times and throwing the ball down the field consistently well. It was the same everything. It was the same efficiency. It was the same taking care of the ball. He only had 10 picks that year versus 6 this year, but remember, he threw the ball a bunch more. You had all of that while having every element of your pass game working. This year, there was one that wasn't. There was one hole, and it's exactly what Marino talked about there. The vertical pass game was non-existent, and they did try it. I was surprised to look up the numbers and see what I saw on this front, which is that Allen was 5th in the league in deep ball attempts. 5th. It didn't feel like it. There was so many yak plays and so many screens and running the ball. Him being 5th was a little surprising to me. But maybe that's just because we didn't see it work all the time. Here's a number for you that really puts into perspective how bad the Bills were at downfield passing this year, despite the fact that they were trying to do it. Catchable air yards. The percentage of a passer's air yards that were catchable. Okay? What was that number? Because think about it. Catchable air yards, a screen, you're getting 0 for that play, or 1. You're not really, it kind of takes out, hey, how efficient were you? It's taking out the screens, if you will. So, catchable air yard rate. What percentage of a quarterback's air yards were catchable? And this is more about the quarterback, but also the receivers. Where did the Bills rank? 48.9% of Allen's air yards were catchable. Less than half. Think about that. The distance that Josh Allen footballs traveled this season. The total distance. Less than half of that was even possible to catch. Where did that rank in the league? 29th in football. And it should never be that low with this quarterback. Because, you want to know why? The teams around him? Who was worse in catchable air yard rate? Cleveland, with Deshaun Watson, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and Jameis Winston. New England, with Jacoby Brissett and then a rookie in Drake May. Caleb Williams, a rookie, who was dead last in the league in this. Who were the teams right around the Bills but just ahead? Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco. Denver with a rookie in Bo Nix. Vegas with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence, who missed a bunch of games too. Carolina with Bryce Young. Dallas with Cooper Rush. The Jets with Aaron Rodgers. New Orleans with Derek Carr. Tennessee with Will Levis. This is the list. Have you heard me name one good quarterback yet? One great quarterback? Really got to scroll all the way up to 17th where you get to Kansas City. The Bills were 29th in that category. That points to when they were chucking the ball downfield, it wasn't working. And there are other numbers that point to that too. And that's my biggest difference. It's almost incredible not having a downfield passing game that worked, that they were able to be as good as they were on offense. It really is. It's a testament to them. It's a testament to how important it was or how valuable it was to have the season they did turnover-wise, right? And how good of a run team they were. How good Allen was and Cook on that front. Because you know what that means? I'll pair that with another number. The Bills, I had one listener reach out and say, one thing I'd like to see them do more, like one thing I'd like to see Allen do better in like next year to hit if there's another level offensively to hit. I'd like to see more play action, more attempts to break that too high safety shell so we can throw deep more and better. Teams weren't doing that to the Bills. It's maybe a fallacy this season about the Bills. You might think, well, why were they running the ball all year? Why were they throwing the ball short? Because, what are teams just hit Josh Allen over the head with? It's just too high safety shell. We're not going to let you throw the ball deep. That didn't happen this year. 30th. The rate in which the Bills saw that too high safety shell this year was 30th. Only 2 offenses in the league saw that look less than the Buffalo Bills did. So they did maybe accomplish their goal in that, right? If the plan of this offense was everyone for years has just been attacking us with sitting back and waiting for Josh to make mistakes and not letting him throw the ball down the field. So let's build an offense that is going to pull them out of that. Well, they did. They did pull them out of that. But what is the benefit, or what ideally would be the benefit of, hey, you pulled all these defenses out of the too high safety shell? It would be exactly what this guy's talking about, Bill, who tweeted him. Play action, hit him over the top. And when they tried it, it didn't work. And that is where the next level of this offense, to me, really comes. And I'm thinking about the Chiefs for this. We'll take your calls in a moment. Everything this offseason for me, I think, is going to be about geared towards the Chiefs. It's just the Chiefs. They're in my heads. They've broken me, and they've broken a lot of other Bills fans. That I gotta do everything to beat them specifically. And I no longer trust that Sean McDermott and this defense is ever going to stop Mahomes. I'll believe it when I see it. It's 0 for 4. And he's 0 for 4. Allen has had a couple of great games. McDermott, and if you want to throw Babich in because he's the play caller this year, their defenses get torched. So I'm left to believe, unless someone thinks McDermott will figure out how to beat Andy Reid, how to stop Mahomes like he never has in the playoffs, I'm left to believe the only way I'm ever going to beat them is I've got to be perfect on offense. Perfect. Capital P. And I think this offense is great. They set a team record in touchdowns, right? Their offense is great. But I'm one element away from being perfect. And it's downfield. And it's, hey, you got to actually back those 2 safeties up again. Because I've got this dude who doesn't have to be great. He doesn't have to be, an A.J. Brown level player or a Diggs in his prime level player. It's just a guy with speed that you have to worry about. Because the Chiefs don't worry about Mac Hollins. Now, they got burned twice in Sunday, but why would they have done anything differently? Look at the throws it took from Josh Allen to get it downfield to Mac Hollins. The touchdown's an incredible pass, but why does it take an incredible, perfect pass to get that play over the top to Mac Hollins for a touchdown? Why is he having to make a great contested one-hand catch? Because he's being draped in coverage. Because you don't have guys that get open down the field. And that's all I think they need. Like, everything else can go to the defense. But, like, because running back is fine. Line is completely fine. Tight end, you're not doing anything. Like, they're just one receiver away that is a speed guy and is good. You know, I don't want a speed guy just to be a speed guy, but I want them to hit on a speed guy. Then to me, they have everything. Because then, to me, Allen doesn't have to be as perfect when he's throwing the ball down the field. And then I think you have the perfect version of Josh Allen. It's just that one element that's missing. And I really think they could have used it against the Chiefs. The Chiefs knew. Spagnuolo knew what the Bills wanted. The Bills wanted to throw the ball short. And all those screens that they ran that got them beat on Sunday, Cooper and Kincaid, and if you want to count the blitz at the end when Shakir's going wide orbit, I don't really think you have to, because I don't know if that play was designed for Shakir, for Kincaid, but they knew what the Bills wanted to do, and it's a lot easier to run up and tackle. You can play more aggressive. You can run up and you could tackle Amari Cooper, Kincaid, and hold them to 4 or 5 yards on a screen more easily when there's nobody on the field you're worried about beating you over the top, no matter how good Allen is. It's the only thing I want to see them add. 803-0550 is the phone number. That's offensively, of course. Defensively, I would like to see that a lot. Let's go to Tony in Buffalo. What's up, Tony?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Morning.
You know, the last couple segments, I think, is a microcosm of something that we'll be talking about an awful lot about. One was on the defensive side with someone like Khalil Mack who can get home, and this one right here where we're talking about being able to stretch the field. And it's got me thinking a lot about two players in particular, as we go into kind of year 2 of this roster transition. And I know at the end of last year, we were kind of fixated on the turnover of some guys who really endeared themselves, to this entire city and the safeties and Trey and stuff like that. But, man, Joe, isn't this era somewhat defined at the end of this era, somewhat defined by the 2 massive swings that Bean took here in the first half, we'll say, of Josh's career? I mean, isn't this the end of the Diggs, Von Miller era more so than any other? I don't know if that is encouraging that we, historically we've seen Bean do it. We've seen Bean identify that the places to take those swings, right, are at receiver and edge rusher. Or am I worried that because, it didn't work out? And listen, man, there were some predictors to it not working out. We had a receiver who left his last team, somewhat contentiously, and a 35-year-old edge rusher. Maybe we learned from that. But I think what we're all clamoring for is something we're going to get because we've seen Bean take the swing at those exact same spots, one time before. And it's hard for me to think that he's, not going to take those same swings on those 2 guys. But I really, really am interested in looking at this more from the perspective of, like, man, was the Von and Stephon swings an era, loosely putting it as an era, was that a failure?
Thanks, Tony. I wouldn't call it a failure, right? Although it depends, right? It depends what your bar is, The Diggs era, I would want to separate the two, personally. Like, trading for Diggs was not a failure. When they traded, it's because when it happened, right? That is part of the equation for me. When you trade for Diggs, Allen's not a superstar yet. You're a team that's got a fine young quarterback, but he's still, pretty raw, pretty inconsistent. So you bring Diggs in, and you lost in the first round of the playoffs on the road. All right, you made the playoffs. Congrats. Now you bring Diggs in. That was all about taking the team to the next level, and that happened. So, no, you didn't win the Super Bowl with him, and he didn't play great in the playoffs when he was here, but you did go to the next level. Von was about winning the Super Bowl. Von was about being the final piece. And that, to me, is where that's different. So, if you want to call that one a failure because, he blew out his knee and they didn't win while he was here, I think it's fine. I wouldn't criticize the Bills for doing it. Two things can be true. I think it failed, the Von signing, and also, I still would have done it if I were them. Let's go to CJ in Buffalo. What's up, CJ?
Hey, I know you were talking about air yards, and
yeah.
I'm thinking about the personnel we have to do the air yards with. It's more or less either route runners and they don't have a lot of speed, or it's Keon Coleman's jump ball. It's not really throw it over your head, let you run and go get it.
Right.
And I think it's kind of contradiction. Like, if you know what kind of quarterback you got, strong arm, and he can get the ball there. We've never had, other than John Brown, we've never had really a speed guy. We usually go get, when Sean McDermott got here, Calvin Benjamin, let's go get a route runner in Diggs.
Yep.
Like, who are our fast guys? Why do we always pass on the fast guys? But you've always seen him try to get the running backs, whether it's Frank Gore or a Singletary coming out of the draft. We thought more of him. It's always a running back, but don't they work together? They keep the safeties back and less people in the box. And you have a running quarterback. It would make sense to have them two work together. You can't come up because we got somebody that'll run past you. And we have an offensive O-line or a scheme now where we put 6 linemen down, and you can't fill the box because I have a speedster out there.
Right. Well, that kind of goes to why I think you didn't see teams all year doing too high safety against the Bills, because when they saw Alec Anderson on the field, it's, well, let's keep one guy back there, and if Mac Hollins is the receiver because he's a blocker, or Coleman, like, we're just not worried about them running past us. It's going to have to be a jump ball.
One guy. I'm just thinking more or less just one guy to scare you.
Same.
And I can't stand Tyreek's personality. I would not want him on the team for that. But I thought about what the Texans did. The 1-year deal, restructure the contract and let the other team pay him and do 1 year with a fast guy that for a fact is he can be a number one, but he's guaranteed to be fast.
Yeah. Thanks, CJ, for the call. Hill is not a person I would want on the Buffalo Bills personally, as a person, and 2, I wouldn't want to even start thinking about it or feel like the need to, because I don't think Miami would ever trade him in division personally. But I get what you're going at. Yeah, for me it's the same thing. Like, I don't need some overhaul of the offense. I just want one more guy that has an element that they don't have. And I think this is not the number one reason. So don't take it as that. This is not the number one reason the Bills lose to the Chiefs year after year. I think coaching is on that list. Defense is on that list. I mean, if you want to make this a part of the defensive point, sure, go ahead. Has there ever been a year when these two teams have met where you felt like the Bills are the faster team? The Chiefs want speed everywhere. They always go for it, and sometimes that gets them in trouble, right? Sky Moore was fast, and he was a bad receiver. They picked in the second round. So sometimes it does blow up in their face, but they are always faster. They are always attacking the Bills with speed, speed, speed. I mean, that is worthy in this game where, we moved things around in a formation and know you're in man coverage. So Mahomes knows pre-snap that, you've got DeMar Hamlin covering Xavier Worthy. He's laughing pre-snap because he knows it's going to be the easiest touchdown of all time. It's exactly what it was. And the Bills don't have a matchup like that. I mean, Shakir maybe is a little close. If there was a safety that is, Hamlin's not a great athlete. So if you had a guy like that on the other side covering Shakir, you might think similar. But the Bills have never really gone after guys like that. Isaiah McKenzie is the closest thing I've gotten. He was a real depth player, 5th on the depth chart type guy. Same with Deontay Hardy. Like, these guys were at the bottom of the roster, hardly on the field. Yeah, I want them to respect speed a little bit more this summer. And that's not to take a break here and get to Carl Jones. They did try it. Like I said, it's blown up in the Chiefs' face when they go all-out athlete, speed, will make him into more of a football player, well-polished guy. The Bills tried that with Kyrie Elam. Kyrie Elam was a crazy good athlete coming out of college. I mean, if he had hit, that would be their defensive speed. That'd be the guy. You got a Xavier Worthy, or you've got whoever that runs by me, Jamison Williams. I've got this guy. He's just as fast. But then he turned out to not be very good. 803-0550. Keep rolling through some calls. Carl Jones is coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the end of the season, the Chief game, covering the Bills. We'll talk with Carl when we come back here on WGR.
injured? Call Jed.com. WGR Sports Radio 550. Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR 550 and get connected to Jeremy and Joe now. Brought to you by Northtown Kia. Check out the 2025 Kia K4 sedan. Named finalist for the 2025 North American Car of the Year.
Football can easily be turned into a results-driven business, but I learned that this team is special. It's resilient, and the mindset I think we've had all year is the same mindset we want to have next year, especially as an offense. Just the unselfish mentality that so many of our guys had. But there's a lot of amazing, incredible things about this team that will carry over to next year.
That's Dawson Knox. His locker room clean out on Monday. We're still waiting to hear from McDermott and Bean. Sure it'll happen soon. Quickly, what's happening? Zach Davidson signs a reserve futures contract with the Bills. He tight end, played a couple games for them this year. Same goes for practice squad quarterback Shane Buechele. Matthew Stafford not retiring, plans to play in 2025. And the Sabres are off today. They're in action tomorrow. That's what's going on. Your Paddock Chevrolet Sports headlines kick off 2025 with the new Chevy from Paddocks. Jeremy and Joe, we're kicking into offseason mode. We're kind of in the middle right now. We're like 1 foot still in the Chiefs game from Sunday. 1 foot's like, hey, how much cap space might they have in March? Who's available free agency-wise? So we're kind of doing both right now. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll get to you. We're going to bring on Carl Jones, though, from WIVB in Buffalo. Talk about the end of the Bill season. What's up, Carl? How are you doing this morning?
Man, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So is that where are you in your mental process with it? Or are we just is it you can't really turn the page yet because we haven't heard from the GM and coach yet? Maybe that's when everybody starts doing it.
I'm probably like half foot in, half foot out, like you kind of alluded to. I actually spent last night watching some of the tape from the game defensively and like, what did the Chiefs do? But also looking ahead to like, hey, what are some players that could have helped out in this game? So I'm kind of looking at both avenues at the same time.
Yeah. When you're watching back the game from the Bills' defensive perspective, I feel like everyone that I'm seeing watch the game back, whether it's the All-22 or just the broadcast version, whatever it is like scratching their head at like, okay, why are the Bills doing this? Why is this happening the way it is? Like just maybe there's confusion about what the Bills wanted out of this game on Sunday defensively.
Yeah, I'm watching it back, and the theme that I'm getting is that they always felt like they just were a step behind of whatever the Chiefs were doing on offense. The Chiefs came out with a lot of RPO, run-pass options to start the game, and the Bills played heavy zone. And then one way to combat that offensive attack is just to play man. And obviously they probably played a little bit more man than they wanted to because Christian Benford left. And when you have two rookies, not rookies, Tyre Elam's not a rookie. When you have two young players out there in him and Cole Bishop, it's much easier to just say, hey, guard the player in front of you as opposed to complex man. But then they got picked apart in that. So it just felt like they were always a step behind. And you're like, man, I see the game plan here, but it was clearly a sinking ship the way they were doing it.
Yeah. I saw you tweeting about this the other day. Like, I am finding myself kind of throwing my hands up a little bit of, man, I just don't know that McDermott is ever going to have the answers to stop the Chiefs as long as Andy Reid is the head coach. But are you more believing that if they were to go out this summer and they came back with, two blue chip guys that aren't on the roster right now, and the roster is improved with more cap space, that they would look better than it did on Sunday?
I think there's some merit to both of them, and I hate to play Switzerland right here, but when you think about it, because I saw this, I tweeted it out how, yes, Patrick Mahomes, and I'm going to throw Joe Burrow on that as well, are elite quarterbacks, and there's no way you're going to stop them. But then when you look at the advanced analytics and the stats, the Bills perform against them the worst compared to any other team in football that they play in the postseason. So there's some merit to these teams having success against the Bills in the postseason and why McDermott's defense just aren't clicking in those matchups. Having said that, though, in the postseason, it's players over plays, and I don't know how many times they've had the blue-chip S-tier player to combat it against these matchups. If you just want to go down memory lane for a second about who the Chiefs have played, last year in the Super Bowl, there's no Nick Bosa or Fred Warner on that roster. Then you think about the Baltimore Ravens last year, there's no Kyle Hamilton, Matabuke, or Roquan Smith. The only matchup that's kind of comparable in terms of like high-end talent are those Bengals teams that gave the Chiefs troubles. And then that's where you can be like, hey, they kind of slowed them down a little bit. Why couldn't the Bills?
Yeah. Carl Jones with us on the Western Hotline at Jones11_ on Twitter if you want to follow him there. Is there a name that you're already thinking about for this? Like blue chip guy could make a big difference in this matchup specifically. Like maybe you're not doing that. I'm finding myself with any name that someone's bringing up, calling in with like, oh, Khalil Mack or whoever, if it's a receiver or if it's a corner, I'm thinking, okay, how does that look if I'm playing Kansas City? Like they've broken me, Carl, that like everything I'm thinking about with this team is geared towards, okay, how would that help me in this specific matchup?
I haven't done exactly like the individual names so far, but I mean, Matt Bove, colleague that works at Channel 7, he's banging the drum for Myles Garrett and Max Crosby, who will be excellent additions no matter what state of your franchise. But I do think a premium pass rusher, whether it's up the middle or on the edge, would be fantastic. And then I do think a versatile chess piece in the secondary would just be perfect for what the Bills want to transition to, because when I watched that game back on Sunday, they just had a lot of round peg, square hole players where, like, man, they're our best in zone, but you need to play man here. And then, like, Rasul Douglas is a great player, but you kind of take away some of his strengths when you're playing man 50% of the snaps. And I just look at that, I'm like, man, if you can get some versatile pieces in the back end, and now you can get real freaky and funky with how you play defense. So I haven't done the diving yet in the weeds of who will be available with maybe like 1 year left on their deal, but I'm sure I'll get into that in the coming weeks.
Looking back on the year, just the offense a little bit here, do you think, we were talking about this earlier, that this was the best version of Josh Allen, the version that we saw this year? He didn't throw it as much as he did in past years, but the efficiency was really the only year, Carl, that efficiency-wise was the same was 2020, but obviously this year taking care of the ball at a historic rate, not taking sacks. Do you think this was the best version of Josh Allen that we just saw?
Yes, and the reason this is going to sound a little like, wow, what like the numbers don't speak to that, at least in the basic stats, whether that's passing yards, touchdowns, whatever the case may be in that department. But the reason I feel so, in this new era, 2024, and it's crazy how quickly trends change in football, right? Just like not even 6 years, like 4 years ago, spread football, air raid, that was like kind of the meta around the NFL. But now I feel like it's kind of shifted more to risk mitigation while staying explosive. And I think that if you look at the offenses, the best offenses in football right now, the best ones are still explosive, and the Bills are, but they do a really darn good job of risk mitigation and taking care of the football in the efficiency department. And the Buffalo Bills, despite not having receivers who aren't necessarily equipped to be explosive, take the top off of a defense, Josh Allen did a phenomenal job in all of those departments. So I think about when you think of the Eagles and how they don't really take a lot of risk out there, but they're still very explosive. Mm-hmm. The Lions, our last time seeing them, they had a lot of mistakes, but that wasn't them all year. The Commanders, and then you look at, obviously, the Chiefs, who weren't explosive at all, but I hate really comparing them to any of the trends going on, because clearly they got some own voodoo black magic going on. Yeah. I think, yes, this is the best version of Josh Allen because it kind of fits what is successful in today's NFL.
Carl Jones with us on the Western Hotline. The Super Bowl itself, you're not boycotting it, are you? I feel like there's more of that, although even still, I said this earlier, everyone's saying they're boycotting the Super Bowl. I'll believe you're not going to watch the Super Bowl when you don't watch the Super Bowl.
No, I'm locked in. I know that maybe the matchup isn't as sexy as some of the other ones, but it's football. It's the last chance I'm going to be able to watch football until August. Like, no disrespect to the UFL or USFL or all that, but like,
I don't remember what it is. Is it the UFL now? I think it's the UFL, right?
Yeah, no disrespect to them boys, but I got to watch. It's going to be the last time in months that I'm going to be able to watch high level ball.
All right. Carl Jones on the Western Hotline. Thanks, Carl. Appreciate you always taking time out for us.
All right, thank you. You guys have a good one.
Thanks, you too. Bills fall to the Chiefs on Sunday, and we are entering off-season mode. If you've been waiting on hold, we'll roll through some calls, too, here at 803-0550 on Is this the best version of Josh Allen? Carl says yes, Joe Marino says yes, a lot of you were saying yes. I'm still holding back on the best because I think there's another layer. Like, he was provably bad this year throwing the ball down the field. Your big arm rocket quarterback, even though the defense wasn't playing too high safety this year against the Bills, they were not, still couldn't throw the ball down the field. And I don't even really blame him for it. I blame, the just lack of speed. There's another layer there. Take all that you did this year, the screen game, improve on that. Keep going with the run game. Your line's incredible. And now just add that element that you used to have, which was, okay, he can sling it downfield too. Let's go to Chadley. Chadley NSL. What's up, Chadley?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Morning.
Good. So once you get to this stage of the playoffs, especially in the Final Four, being good is not good enough anymore. You have to be elite. And so if you break down some of the position group in Buffalo, you have an elite line, you have an elite quarterback. I think you have an elite running game. It could be great, but by receiver, we're okay. We're good. We're serviceable. But on the defensive side of the ball, break down the positioning group. Defensive line, they're okay. Sometimes they disappear during big games if you play defense. I think linebackers are elite, and our back end is okay. I think we have to upgrade at least one of those defensive groups into being elite. Because if you've got 2 out of the 3 defensive groups elite, then you're less attackable. That's what Kansas City did. They attacked. They didn't respect our line, and they attacked our back end, and we couldn't stop them. So I think we need to add some pieces to make at least one of the 2 elite. That way we're less attackable.
Yeah. Thanks, Charlie, for the call. They maybe did early. The Chiefs did a ton of RPOs at the beginning of that game. And those are those plays where your line doesn't even have a chance to get home. Because the ball, it's either going to be a run play or the ball is coming out in a flash. It has to, because if it doesn't, then you're going to get an illegal man downfield penalty. So they did a lot of that early. But then maybe they realized, hey, we don't want to be afraid of these guys. I mean, Ed Oliver's a fine player. Greg Rousseau's a fine player. He was having a very bad day. Epinesa, like Daquan Jones, these are all fine players. I like Joe Marino's line from earlier. They have a defensive line full of Robins, and they need a Batman. They really do. They need a couple Batmans. You need every team. Take a break here. Every team needs like 3-4 Batmans, and the Bills have 1. He's more like Super Batman, though, right?
Isn't that getting to like the Avengers at some point, where it's like you have like all these big names?
Yeah.
Rather than like,
I mean, the Avengers won, right?
Yeah.
I feel like,
but there's like, I mean, you have Iron Man, you have Thor, you have Captain America. Like, you have all those different guys.
Josh Allen is Thanos, and the Chiefs are the Avengers. I've got one guy, and they're just hitting me over the head. I got Iron Man over here. I got Spider-Man over here. I got Thor coming at me. And Josh Allen is Thanos. He's getting hit from all angles.
You got to flip the script.
He lost in the end.
Well, yeah, but you got to flip the script.
It did take time travel, I think, if I'm thinking back on how that movie actually went, or the series of movies. Anyways, 8030550. You're on hold. Stay there. We'll get to you. Coming up on WGR. I flirted with the idea, wondering, would this team want to, move on from Bobby Babich this quickly? No. But for, if Robert Saleh wanted to come overhaul the defense, or not overhaul, but take over the defense and be your new play caller when you're playing the Chiefs, but I don't think they're going to do that. The only thing I think they would do is Smiley. One quick phone call. Let's go to Mario in Jacksonville. What's up, Mario?
Hey, Joe. Good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem.
Hey, so I woke up Monday super depressed, and then Tuesday I woke up before listening to you guys, and I had this weird optimism that I think Jeremy shared, where you look at the offseason that we're going to have, and on paper we should be a whole lot better just with the draft capital we have and then getting all that money from the Diggs trade. So it's hard to not think the team's going to be better. But listening to Carl just a few minutes ago, I kind of disagree with him when he was talking about, is this the best version of Josh Allen? And he talked about that risk assessment type team that we had where you win the turnover battle, you kind of play conservative. I don't think that's what this team needs. I think the best version of Allen was the 2020-21 season where you can let him sling it, and you were explosive because in the playoffs it's pretty apparent that this strategy that we had, when you go against guys like Spagnuolo, they know how to defend against, and you have nowhere to stretch the field. You can't put it all on your quarterback. So I think the team needs to move away from that and identify that, hey, this is our chance. Give Josh everything you can. I would spend a lot of money on defense and draft defense, but then I would try to go out and sign a blue-chip veteran receiver or, go out and see if you can get a Tyler Boyd or a Chris Godwin, one of these veteran guys who are established, to help out this team on the offensive side of the ball. Because I think that's where fundamentally the team needs to look at how do you improve. And I hate to be an optimist now, but I think they're going to be better next year. And it pains me to say that because I want to be depressed still, but they shouldn't be worse. I mean, who are they really losing? Cooper and maybe Douglas?
Right. And you would think maybe they improve upon both of them. So
exactly. So it pains me to say, but I can look back now and say, man, this team was incredible with who they had a bunch of, no disrespect, scrub guys, bottom of the barrel guys, and they shined. Imagine having the talent we had from previous seasons and then being aggressive and mean, so to speak, on defense, and I think the team can only be better.
Yeah, thanks, Mario, for the call. I like this because it does get back to, well, there's two things at hand. Well, we'll get to more when we come back. I also expect the team to be better, and I also don't expect to be confident the next time they play the Chiefs, even if they are better. We'll get more on that. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll get to you. It's Jeremy and Joe. 803-0550 is the phone number. We are into Bills offseason mode, different ideas. He mentions a blue-chip receiver. I don't know if that's really available. There's really only one of those, but we can talk about that too. It's Jeremy and Joe. This is WGR.
Crew show of the Bills on the West Her Hotline. Ray Davis, Bills rookie running back here on the West Her Hotline.
The Coaches Call, the West Her Hotline.
Sean McDermott, head coach of the Bills, joins us on the West Her Hotline.
The Insiders Call, the West Her Hotline.
Happy to welcome our man, Ross Tucker. Al Michaels with us, pleased as always to be joined by Eric Wood.
On the West Her Hotline is Buffalo Bills General Manager Brandon Beane.
When the players call, when the coaches call, when the insiders call, the West Her Hotline. Brought to you by the West Her Automotive Group. Welcome to West Her, New York. Sports Radio 550 WGR Buffalo and WKSE HD2 Niagara Falls, Buffalo, 98.5 FM.
An Odyssey sports station.
Broadcasting live from the Just Call Jed studios. Injured? Call Jed.com. This is the official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550. The official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Kicking into Bills off-season mode, we are still waiting to hear end-of-season press conferences from Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, but that should be happening sometime very soon. The Bills signing Zach Davidson, their practice squad tight end, to a reserves futures contract. He played a couple games for the Bills this year. By the way, actually, we do know when they're talking. Brandon Beane today. Here we go. Brandon Beane today at 11 a.m. will be speaking to the media. And then head coach Sean McDermott today at 2 p.m. So we will hear from both the GM and the head coach today. That coming in. Just saw a tweet from John Scott from Channel 2 here in Buffalo. Elsewhere around the NFL, Matthew Stafford, there was some thought he could retire. That was out there in the media, but he says he's not retiring and plans to play in 2025. But Ian Rappaport reports Stafford will need a new contract. His deal has only $27 million of non-guaranteed money set up for him in 2025. Bengals GM Duke Tobin says Jamar Chase signing extensions, their number one priority. Sound less optimistic about T. Higgins coming back. He's expected to be a free agent, or he will be a free agent. Sabres in action tomorrow against Nashville. Rob Ray Hall of Fame night tomorrow. We'll talk to Rob tomorrow here on the show. 7 o'clock puck drop at KeyBank Center. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
What do you dislike about this team? They win close games. They play well. Yeah, you think they may get a favorable whistle, probably because just like Duke in college basketball, look at how many years people complain that the Canadians would get the whistle in hockey when they were going through their great team, or the Edmonton Oilers teams of Gretzky, because their guys are a little bit better than your guys, and they end up drawing more infractions. So it does bother me a bit. There's no fatigue for me. I love seeing greatness. I'm blessed that I lived during the era of Tiger Woods and Serena Williams and Kobe Bryant and Wayne Gretzky and the best of the best in their sport. And if Patrick Mahomes and these Chiefs are part of the best and I'm living through it, I'm lucky. So I'm not complaining about that. I'm reveling in it.
Mike Tirico on the idea of Chiefs fatigue. A couple good points in there and a couple points, Joe, that I don't really have anything for. Like, it's not the same as Tiger Woods. It's not the same as Serena Williams. Is it Kobe? Sure, it's similar. The Lakers, of course, did not have a dynasty during Kobe. Right? They had a couple championships.
The only thing in the NBA that compares to this is got to be Jordan
Bulls.
Or I guess LeBron did go to the finals 8 years in a row.
Sure.
So, like, that's kind of close.
Right. I guess the very, very simple answer to Mike Tirico here, who I love Mike Tirico, Syracuse grad. Grew up watching him at Channel 3 in Syracuse. Anyway, if you don't care who wins, then yeah, it's fine to appreciate that. But, you know, Mike, I mean, some of us like other teams.
Yeah.
In fact, most people like other teams. Every time I hear somebody say, you should be appreciating greatness, like, what?
Uh-huh.
What are you talking? Get out of here.
Well, can we do both? Can we appreciate greatness and also hate their guts?
Yes.
Like, that's kind of where I fall. I appreciate how great Mahomes is, Kelsey is, and I think Andy Reid, like, I'm ready to say next week, at some point, like in Super Bowl week, that he is going to catch Belichick.
Yeah.
Like he's the greatest coach ever. Like Belichick has that. I can't get over that his record without Brady. He's got 9 seasons worth of coaching in the league, and he's like Rex Ryan's win percentage or worse.
And Andy Reid has success with multiple franchises, quarterbacks, everything.
What's his record without Mahomes? It's probably amazing.
It's very good.
He hasn't won a Super Bowl without him, but he's won. So, but you can still hate them. I wonder if the Chiefs fatigue also is like AFC fans. Everyone's got their fan base. Everybody's fan of somebody, and they have beaten everybody. Right? Look at, they've beaten obviously a Bills fan is sick of them because they've beaten them a bunch. A Ravens fan is sick of them because they've beaten Baltimore in the postseason.
The AFC West is sick of them.
The AFC West is sick of them because they're in the division, right?
They knocked Houston out twice.
Twice they've knocked Houston out. They knocked the Dolphins out last year in the AFC East. They've knocked Cleveland out. Cleveland made it to the second round. That's as far as they've ever made it. They got rid of them, and that was with Mahomes went out of that game, right? That's Chad Henne comes in. They've knocked Jacksonville out of the playoffs. They've knocked Cincinnati out of the playoffs. They've knocked Pittsburgh out of the playoffs. Like the Titans, the only team in the AFC. There are 2 teams not in their division that they haven't knocked out of the playoffs, and that's New England and the New York Jets. Every other fan base
has been
has had this team stand in their way. So of course, all of them are going to be like, "Yeah, I'm sick of them."
Right. Asking an impartial person, Mike Tirico, are you tired of them? No. What is he going to say? Yes? He's on the broadcast for a lot of these games.
Yeah, I don't think he could say yes. Even
right, exactly. Like, oh, no, we're with. It's the same thing as Brady. When, at the end, I was dead tired of Brady. Like, oh, can you believe he's done it again? Like, I can definitely believe that he's done it again. And I'd really love it if someone else did it. And then someone else started to do it. Now he's the only one that does it.
And I know.
How about that? Is there a point in here about just dynasty fatigue? We just got done with one. One guy left, and he's been immediately replaced.
Yeah, I agree. That's the best point, I think, is that we didn't get a break in between. It was right
Matthew
from one to the other.
It was Matthew Stafford, 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. The Brady era's over. Here's Stafford winning 1. Okay, now it's all Mahomes from here. Cool. Good times.
Yeah. Well, because when I hear him list out all those other dynasties, like I too try to figure out, like, for me, I think it's easy. We're just, the Bills. That's the reason why it's totally different because
why are the Lakers not bothering you? Why is Kobe not bothering you?
Right.
Because you're NBA, you're a Nuggets fan, but like how seriously?
Yeah, no, not enough to like hate them for it. Because like when I hear Tiger, love Tiger. Like love when Tiger is running through the sport, I love that. The Warriors, sure, I like kind of had fun rooting against them when Durant got there, but when they were running roughshod over the league the way they were, that was awesome. Like they were the best. They had won, and I still wanted to see them do well and succeed.
And
they
there
were
were plenty
fun.
of people that hated them and hated Draymond and hated there are plenty of people that hated them.
But not. Well, maybe it is. Maybe again, too close to the sun here to see behind it that maybe it is the same because it doesn't feel to me like the Warriors. It was more split. Like, oh, I hate Draymond, but at the same time, somebody like, man, watching Steph and they're so likable at the same time. And I don't hear any of that about Kansas City from any corner of the country.
How about this? Let's step out and look at teams that have been dominant over eras. Yankee fans and people that hated the Yankees. All right, all you Yankee fans out there, don't you feel like people have really softened on how much they hate the Yankees in the last 10 years? Because I do.
Sure.
I have. I hated them when they were winning all the time, and now they don't win all the time, and it's fine.
It's more funny to laugh at them than it is like
even if you're not even doing that. I hated the Bernie Williams, Paul O'Neill, Scott Brocious Yankees with the intensity of 1,000 Suns. It's because they won all the time, and I wanted someone else to win. Mm-hmm. And now the Yankees don't win all the time. And when they win a game or a series, I'm like, oh, cool, that's fine.
Now their co-owners out complaining that the Dodgers spend too much money.
Yeah.
The New York Yankees are complaining that another team is spending too much money, by the way.
So I don't think anybody should be too surprised about any sort of dynasty fatigue. I mean, it's very, it's even the Patriots. Brady missed a year. There was one year. There was 1 year. It was the Wild West. Jordan retired for 2 years.
Yeah,
right? You had a window in there for Olajuwon and the Rockets. So Brady retire for a couple years.
Brady in New England, in this context, like making every Super Bowl, they disappeared for a decade.
They missed 10 Super Bowls in a row.
They didn't. They made the two Giants ones, right? But that's
Okay.
and they lost them both. So over the course of, how long did that go? They went from, because they had that second version of them between 2005 and 2014. So that's a 9-year stretch. They reached 2 Super Bowls and lost
them both.
Like, they gave us a little. Sure, they were great the whole time. They were on TV all the time. They did.
And in there was a 17-0 season that was fun and different and worth chasing.
But they weren't in every AFC Championship game. Like 2005, they lose in the divisional round. The next year, they're at the Colts in the AFC Championship. 2008, they missed the playoffs. 2009, they lose in the wild card. 2010, they lose in the divisional round. They at least mixed in these seasons where they're not just right there at the end every single year. And maybe that'll happen to the Chiefs too, but I mean, we're 7 years in now, right? We're almost a decade into this thing, and they haven't left us alone.
803-0550, 1-888-552-550 to join us. Jeremy and Joe on a Friday, Thursday. We don't have a football game tonight. What do we?
No,
we got hockey tomorrow. There's hockey on the weekend. I'm going to both hockey games. That'll be fun. Rob Ray's Sabres Hall of Fame ceremony. He was on with the afternoon show yesterday. He'll be on with us on tomorrow, 9 o'clock, heading into that game. We're both going to that game.
Listen, tomorrow with the Rob Hall of Fame ceremony, a Friday night against a bad team, you might not get many good nights in that arena, and tomorrow has about as good a potential, I think, to be one as any.
Yeah.
Nashville's really bad this year.
Get to a call in a moment here. I was thinking all day yesterday about the Pettersson trade idea, Elias Pettersson. For anyone that's kind of just checking in, you wake up out of your Bills coma, what's going on with the Sabres. They're having a terrible season, but they're linked to one of the best players that would be traded in years.
Sensical.
Right. Mikko Rantanen, Martin Necas, sure, but whatever, a blockbuster idea. They're linked to a blockbuster idea. And the more I think about it, the more I think they really have to get it over the line, because if they don't, what? And again, this might be, you can't make moves to sell tickets. Well, people buy tickets to entertaining hockey, so I think you can. And my idea is just simply, if you don't do this, what's the biggest conceivable move you could even do in the offseason? The coaching hire you just made was the splash coach that everyone loves, and that didn't go anywhere, and the season's been lost. What on earth could you do? You're not getting a player of this caliber in a trade if he has a no-trade clause. You're not getting a player of this caliber in free agency. We've been down the tanking road. They're going to pick in the top 5 probably. Yeah. I feel like you have to do this just to do something different.
Yeah.
It's kind of the fruit from the same tree of people that want McDermott fired, because something different might just be better, except, McDermott's successful, and what the Sabres keep doing is not successful. I feel like they have to do it, Joe. Right?
I think they have to do it, and they have to do it now. There is no, this is more of an off-season move. This to me feels like an exploding offer. You wait till the summer, he gets his no-movement clause, you're not getting him. Right? I think it's different between getting a guy to be willing to, give it a shot if you're trading for him because he has no trade protection, and you just say, well, we'll trade for him anyway, even if we think he probably wouldn't want to be here, versus if he now has the leverage, he can tell Vancouver, I'm only going to these 4 teams. Now you're out of it. And if you wait to the summer, that's what happens. So it's not only I feel like they have to do it, they have to do it now. And Vancouver is just getting uglier and uglier. You got to pounce, because Rutherford, the president, says in the open, and on a radio interview, oh yeah, we got locker room problems.
Yeah.
Miller and Pettersson, our 2 best players. And then they're definitely true. JT Miller, I saw, got asked last night about his president, Jim Rutherford's remarks about the rift between him and Pettersson, which would be the easiest softball ever that is set up to him in a post-game interview about, hey, between you two, what's your reaction to it? He's like, I don't have one. He's like, are you good right now? Are you and the question by the reporter was, are you and Petey good? You two guys right now. And how easy would it be to just say, oh yeah, no, we're both professionals, we're working our best, whatever. He said, I don't have a comment. Something's going on there, and if one of their great players is going to get traded because of it, I can't find a good argument against it that anybody has made.
Well, at the risk of narrative busting or narrative buying, the thing about him is that he's mentally soft, right? Oh, we don't want another mentally soft guy. What did people around here say about Eichel when they traded him? Not a leader. mentally can't handle it. He wanted out. He didn't want to be a part of this. I want guys that want to be part of the solution, blah, blah. Like, when you're breaking up, you say that stuff. That's how it goes.
Right.
Breakups, you trash someone on the way out. So is he, I don't know, it might be somewhat true, but get him in a better situation, and it might just work out just fine. So, again, he's incredibly talented and under contract and can't say no. And,
can't say no.
It feels like that's where the Sabres have to live.
I mean, he'd have to say, I mean, I don't think it would ever get this ugly. I don't think. He'd have to say, I'm not playing for you. And if the Sabres took the attitude of, well, we're doing it anyway, so you decide. You got 7 years left on your contract, buddy. Like, it might feel like you're holding him hostage a little bit by doing that, but, like, hey, give it a shot. Give it a shot, and you know what's going to happen. If he comes here and 3 years go by and they're terrible, they'll just trade him then.
803-0550. If you want a thought on the Sabres, you can throw it our way. Patrick in New Jersey, still there on the line. Patrick.
Hey, how you doing, guys? Thanks for taking my call.
Morning. Thanks for calling.
Hey, I guess the only positive I can take from it right now is that I'm in South Jersey, so it's Eagles country, so I'm not enemy number one right now.
Nice.
But, yeah, just to hit on some of the points, if we do end up getting a deep threat or something that can stretch the field, is there a lot of confidence in what we've seen from Josh that he can actually connect with that, or is he just so accurate he has to throw the ball on top of them at all times? And going off of what Carl said, I have a question in regards to when he mentioned that, because of Elam being in and we had to adjust the defense and the complexity of the zones, if we don't have faith in Elam and we have to change the defense, why is he still on the roster? You can't tell me we don't have guys in the practice squad or who can step up, who can play the zones and possibly stop Mahomes from running that sweep play nonstop that apparently threw our coaching staff for a loop. And then also, trying to hire that Batman or that Superman. What do those guys have? Who was that one piece that kept those teams together? It was Alfred. It was Nick Fury. You got to have that. You got to have that other piece in there.
Yeah.
So that's my piece on all of that. I still love the Bills. I'm still going to rock my stuff. I'm not going to get beat up this week by the Eagle fans. So have a great day. Go Bills. Go Bandits. Go Sabres. And I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's funny, like you say, like you're still Bills fans, still going to rock your gear. We had somebody in the YouTube chat say, like, it sounds pessimistic, and there are going to be times we're talking about them sounds that way. But again, it's not like this franchise will never accomplish anything. We're not trying to figure out how to get them to 9-8. You're trying to figure out how to dethrone a dynasty, and that's going to take everybody. I'll be interested to hear Bean's message today when he speaks, and McDermott's too.
Yeah, and
the kind of questions they get. Bean is a GM that gets a lot of credit for being open and honest, and I think he is pretty open. He is pretty transparent. He's one to say, I didn't do a good job in that draft, or this is where I made a mistake, or I didn't leave. He's one to do that, and I wonder what he says about this team. If he says we were a team that was in transition, that's not wrong. That's not wrong. And that's one of the reasons that I think there should be optimism, that you got there and you still failed in this moment and in this version of the Bills, but they're not losing any big pieces. He'll add, and they'll start to build on it from there. So, I'm eager to hear what his tone is and what his message is. And then McDermott, I wonder how many questions come his way about, do you have any answers?
Yeah.
What self-scouting is there to say how they are so ready to just rip you apart defensively and you don't have any response?
Yeah, I'm looking forward more to Bean because of that. Like, Bean is willing to be more introspective, I think, about things. And McDermott's been better this year on a lot of that, but I guess I'm just the questions I want answered from McDermott are the ones that don't really get asked. And if they did, he probably wouldn't want to get. Like, I would want to know about, why did you play 40% man coverage? Like, why all the film guys that are breaking down, like, why aren't they motioning like this when the Chiefs are clearly, in this formation? Why? Like, there are strategic questions that I would want to hear from McDermott, which just usually aren't what these press conferences are about, right? They're more about, big picture and culture and feelings, which is fine. But I feel like Bean is more going to be today about, why did this happen? Why did this happen this way? Like, so I'm definitely looking forward more to the GM. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they will get into, like, why they played the Chiefs the way they did defensively.
think back to last year. They said the goal when they lost last year, the message for both of them was need to find a way to get more explosive plays.
Right.
And they did. They did that. They had more explosive plays in the pass game this year than they did last year on 100 fewer attempts. So they found their way to what that stated goal was. And explosive plays was, Joe, that's something they said in this exact press conference, the one right after the season. We have to be more explosive because in the Chiefs playoff game last year, they had 0 explosive plays. There's some drops mixed in there too. So I wonder what their message is today, like what kind of unified front they have today about being a team that tries to take a step.
Joe Marino from earlier has got me on this track right now of they did get more than they did last year. Like Allen on the year, if you look at, and a lot of these would be yak plays, right? Like, and there would be runs too. But in the pass game, like these explosive plays they got would have been some Shakir plays where it's an underneath route and he takes it, a certain amount of yards. And they did complete, if I'm looking at how many completions that Allen had of 20-plus air yards on the year, he finished 5th in the league with 26. The problem is he had 75 attempts. Like, they got more, but Joe pointing out earlier, like, that they did try to throw the ball down the field. Like, all the numbers point to he wanted second most deep ball attempts in football this year. Josh Allen, 20-plus air yards. And the number that I found last hour that is in my head right now and might be all off season about, like, just the one type of player they need to add. Like, Allen being one element away from the best version of himself is down the field. The idea that he had on catchable air yards this year was at 51%, which only Bo Nix was below in the league, to me should never happen. Like, there's no if I read that list off to you, there's not another great quarterback within 15 spots of where Allen ranks in that category. The fact that half of his air yards weren't even catchable should never happen. And to me, he did try to throw the ball down the field this year. And, the caller asks about, well, is that just Allen being off target? For me, like, sure, that's a part of it. But it's also that every time he throws the ball down the field, the throw's got to be a 10 out of 10. He can't underthrow it by a yard because it'll get deflected away because his receivers don't get open. Like, think about the Hollins play on Sunday. That's a deep ball down the middle, the touchdown. Look at the throw it took. If it wasn't absolutely perfect, it's not a touchdown. And I'd love for them to add that element of, okay, there are some deep balls that are working, and Allen doesn't even have to be perfect because the guy's got 5 yards of separation.
Yeah, there was that stat after that touchdown. Next Gen Stats, Allen led the league in yards into tight windows.
Right.
So, hey.
That's it. That's it. I don't think they need much on offense. They broke the franchise record in touchdowns. That's, like, to your point. Like, it sounds like I'm being pessimistic and, like, the whole offense stinks. But I just think it's that one. That's just the one missing piece I think that the offense has is they just were not good at throwing the ball down the field this year when teams weren't even doing the 2-eye safety shell.
803-0550. You can join us on the phones and the YouTube chat that's popping off. There are some people here that do not believe that Joe once ate a Cobb salad in a movie theater.
Oh, I absolutely did.
See?
I absolutely did. In an Arizona movie theater that I don't even remember what the name of the theater was. I think it might have been a chain out west, but they have like a full menu.
What was the movie?
What was the movie?
Like, are there some movies where Cobb salad is appropriate and some where you wouldn't do it?
What do you mean? Like you would do a Cobb salad for like a
comedy or a dark movie or a superhero movie?
Oh,
like what's Cobb salad pair well with?
I was thinking more of like a sophisticated movie, maybe like one of these
an artsy film.
Yeah, like one of these Best Picture nominees, maybe
like Chocolat or something like
versus
that.
like again, this had like a full menu. Like if I'm getting the pizza, that's a Marvel movie right there.
Right. Okay.
I'm getting pizza or chicken fingers.
You were seeing a sophisticated movie.
What was the movie? I don't remember.
The salad was so good you forgot the movie.
No, you know what it really was? I think I remember that it was the night that the war in Ukraine started. So that's what I remember about, like that happening. And I don't remember what the movie was, though. Yeah, I don't remember.
All right. Forgettable film.
Must not have been very good.
I guess not. 803-0550 is our phone number. It's WGR. You can chat with us about the Bills. Brandon Beane, 11 o'clock today. Sean McDermott at 2. So we'll get, the two men that run the franchise. Management, their thoughts on where it went right, where it went wrong. A lot went right. I mean, let's not lose that message. A lot went right. It's about that last little step and what they got to do to get there. 803-0550 if you want to jump in, give us a thought. It's Jeremy and Joe on WGR.
Live from the Just Call Jed studios. Injured? Call Jed.com. WGR Sports Radio 550. Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR 550 and get connected to Jeremy and Joe now. Brought to you by Northtown Kia. Check out the 2025 Kia K4 sedan. Named finalist for the 2025 North American Car of the Year.
Well, so like when you make raviolis, we wanted to make them from scratch, and so you like roll the dough and you got to cut the dough. But we were at a rental house, so we didn't have the right tools, and the only thing there was a wine glass that we found, and had my hand on top of it, and it broke, and the stem kind of got me in the hand. So it's one of those deals where it's truly I can't live in a bubble. Got to live my life, and accidents happen, and it could have been a lot worse. I actually talked to somebody who did the exact same thing, and the stem went straight through their hand, and so it's one of those deals where immediately after it happened, I was mad at myself because I was like, gosh, that was so stupid, but you just don't think about it when you're in the moment. Yeah, I've definitely been a little bit more careful doing stuff at home.
Scotty Scheffler on how he hurt his hand. I mean, making ravioli with a wine glass.
This is a ridiculous sports injury. He really didn't think that he thought the stem would hold up. He's cutting the ravioli with he's got it upside down, right? I'm assuming.
I guess so.
This is just an insane. I can't believe he didn't realize that would have happened.
What's the story? The stupidest sports injuries. I mean, Kevin Cobb slipped on a mat in a training camp. But there's a story about Brian Greasy got knocked over by his dog or something like that. That was the story he told.
Okay.
He got hurt because he
funny.
fell, and he said he got knocked over by his dog, if I remember that correctly, long ago. Anyway.
Okay. Gus Farrat when he headbutted a wall.
That was amazing.
That was in a game, though.
That was in a game, yep.
Oh, wow. The first list that came up is way too 50. The top 50 dumbest sports injuries in sports history.
What do you got?
That's too many. I mean, number 47 is Sammy Sosa injured himself while sneezing in 2004.
You ever done that?
No. A sneeze that's so what am I? I'm throwing my back out.
I mean, it could. Yeah, sure. I'm trying to think the dumbest way I've injured myself.
Derek Mason, former Ravens receiver, broke his wrist playing golf. Charity golf tournament.
Charlie Ho, a Major League Baseball player, broke his finger while at dinner. Before leaving, he shook friends with his hand and broke his pinky.
Charlie Huff broke a pinky on a handshake?
Yeah.
That's the friend's fault. What are you trying to prove, man? You're breaking fingers out here with your handshake?
I mean, this one also...
You're real tough?
This one also wasn't his fault, but Nyheim Hines' career in Buffalo ended because someone hit him with a jet ski.
That's right.
Right? You got a former baseball player hurt his wrist playing Guitar Hero and missed a month. That's pretty tough. A month out because of Guitar Hero.
Who hasn't done that?
Expert through the fire and the flames had to be, probably.
Oh, man. That game was pretty fun back in the day.
Ricky Henderson got frostbite from leaving an ice pack on his ankle for too long.
Oof.
Okay.
I mean, should I not mention... Is Jay McKee going to be number one here?
Yeah, but that's not like he did something stupid.
No, right. Yeah, that's right.
803-0550, 1-888-550-2550 if you'd like to join us. We did the NBA 10-minute quarters. Caitlin Clark skipping the three-point contest. That's disappointing. But,
yeah.
Fine. What else?
She's a Chiefs fan, by the way.
She is. That makes
Caitlin
sense.
Clark? Yeah,
all right.
The Midwest.
If you're from the middle of America, I'll buy it. Right?
Anywhere from the middle of America?
You're from Iowa. I'll buy it that she's a Chiefs fan. Seeing her there, sure, fine.
Yeah.
She's from where's she from? She is from Des Moines, Iowa. That's very believable. You'd be a Chiefs fan.
Yeah.
So sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. What else do we got here? I mean, it's kind of the slow time in the transactional, part of the NFL calendar because we're waiting for the Super Bowl and all the coach stuff is over.
Easy. We've got full phone lines to talk about these future reserve free agent signings the Bills have made. Give us your takes on
Zach
Shane
Davidson.
Buechele.
Yeah.
And who else? Jalen Virgil's coming back and
Zach Davidson, who I think he caught a pass this year.
I think he did too. He was a popular anytime touchdown bet in that Patriots game.
Yeah, 1 for 5 against the Chiefs in the regular season.
He caught a pass. He was the missing element in this game. Too bad.
Kincaid didn't play in that first game, did he?
That's right. He didn't.
Yeah.
Listen, never mind. I'll just leave that there. Kincaid, hopefully they can get things rolling next year.
That game's here again next year in the regular season?
It is. Don't you already dread talking about it?
Yes. I don't even. Can we put it as early in the season as possible? Or is that to get it, I want it as far away from the playoffs as possible.
Yeah.
The Bills-Chiefs meeting. But it can't be week. Well, I guess it could be week 1, but the Eagles would have to win next week.
That's right. Eagles and Chiefs. I did see a stat on Jalen Hurts. He's bad when pressured, but, side note, he's good against Spagnuolo blitzes. He's got very good numbers against Spags blitzes. And if you think about the last time these two teams played, by the way, why does everybody think the Chiefs get all the calls? Listen, I get that people think that, and I think it's okay to think that. I don't think it's okay to think it's a conspiracy. But if you remember, a couple Super Bowls ago, this is before Taylor Swift was a part of the Chiefs, so the league wasn't fixing these games to get Taylor Swift at the games. The last time they played the Eagles, how did that Super Bowl end?
Holding call against the Eagles, right? Darius Slay?
That's right. Yeah. Was it Slay or was it a different guy?
Was it someone else?
Somebody held
no, it was Bradbury. James Bradbury.
Right. James Bradbury holds Juju, or was it Hardman? Right. There's a slight redirecting of the hip. It's a penalty, first and whatever. They can kneel and kick.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that was a tough one to take. That was
pretty ticky.
The whole post game was, would you call this a penalty?
Yeah.
And they got a call. They got a call to effectively flag Super Bowl's going to end on a kick right here. Why do people think they get all the calls? Well, that's one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
They have a Super Bowl on it. It's tough. It's tough to take. Anyway, that game, Jalen Hurts was amazing.
He was
outside
great.
Of a fumble that got returned for a touchdown.
Right. It got returned all the way?
I believe so.
Okay.
He was incredible in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, he was.
He had 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
They
don't have A.J. Brown yet, do they? Or is that his first year?
No, they do. It's his first year, yeah.
Okay.
803-0550. Got a couple of folks who want to, pop on. Adam in New Jersey. Two calls in a row from New Jersey.
Yeah.
What's up, Adam?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Morning.
Hey,
good.
Don't forget that I think Kevin Cobb also tripped over like a garden hose during training camp that one one
Yeah, he slipped
Both?
on the.
Was it Matt and a garden hose, or it was one thing here?
It might have been a Matt over a garden hose. Who knows?
It was something weird. So my concern was that I know that McDermott's really trying to evolve himself, especially with his offensive decisions, but I'm really worried that his mindset on his defense. Now I know that he changed up a little bit for the Baltimore game, but I'm worried that his defensive scheme could go stale. There's been great defensive minds in the NFL, like Rex Ryan, that's had awesome success with defense, that his defensive style just went stale and gotten figured out by the entire league, and hence that's why he was never coaching ever again, because his defensive numbers bottomed out. I'm really worried about that. And I was also wondering what you guys thought of. I know that everyone's talking about Max Crosby and stuff, and I know that might be a lot of money, but I'm talking about free agents. I don't know what you think of maybe a couple years, maybe with Khalil Mack, or on a safety end, I'm looking at Javon Holland or something from Miami. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, we mentioned both those names a little earlier because Mack is still productive, and you might not like it as the best idea, but you don't have to convince anybody to trade him to you. You could just try to sign him and see if he wants to come play for the Bills, which maybe he does. Javon Holland's a big money free agent. This safety is interesting, right? Because the Bills have turned, when they took Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, Hyde had been established as a pretty good safety, and they signed him and turned him into a great safety. And same with Jordan Poyer, a special teamer, role player guy, and those two were perfect for this defense. And I wonder where Bean and McDermott, when they get together and they talk, where did they think, hey, listen, these positions we can coach up more than others? Did they think that about safety?
They probably have thought it about corner because they've kind of done it. Maybe they thought safety and they didn't know because it never really got tested, right? Because Poyer and Hyde have just been there the whole time.
Because there are spots, they drafted Ed Oliver and Dwayne Carter, but those are the only two that draft picks they've spent on that position. Do they think we can get it done at defensive tackle with bargain free agents? I mean, they've done that at receiver. At receiver, they've acted like they can get by with just middle-of-the-road guys until they go and they swing for Diggs. But before Diggs, it's Brown and Beasley, and that worked out. They were pretty good at that. And Sanders comes in as a hired gun for a year. So, I don't know, I just wonder on their positional hierarchy how they would kind of slot things in, where they spend, where they don't.
Well, don't we think they definitely don't think that about defensive end?
That they need it, that they
there's
need to go
there's
out.
no coaching that up. Like you just gotta have a talent there. You gotta have a guy.
The guys that they've drafted for that position, there's a first, there's 2 seconds, there's a Vaughn signing, there's
a
Leonard
couple of middle of the road free agent, Mario Addison.
Leonard Floyd, Mario Addison, Trent Murphy. They're always willing to throw a good chunk at that spot. In addition, it's why I favor it for their first round pick this year, defensive end.
They also really have never. They might feel like all the chasing they've done at that position, they've never had the guy they wanted when they went to go play the Chiefs. Right? Like they signed Vaughn for that, and they maybe wanted Rousseau to become that, but they've never had the game-breaking edge rusher when they went to play this football team. And maybe they want to see what that looks like. Maybe they want to, if Khalil Mack is a double-digit sack guy, or if they could get their hands on Max Crosby, how do we play differently if we have, to Marino's comment earlier, Batman on the defensive end? You have one. You haven't had one. And I wonder if they have enough resources to do, 2 of these things, though. Like, really wonder how much they can load up. Like, maybe Bean will give us an indication of what their ability is for that. But whether it's Mack in addition to a Holland, or I'm looking at the ESPN top 50 free agents right now that they had listed out, and, like, DJ Reed is number 4 at corner. Trevarius Ward at corner is number 8. There's Mack at 7. Josh Sweat. Like, Adigizua from the Cowboys, defensive tackle at number 10. Like, the Bills getting not even one of these guys, maybe 2 or 3 of these guys, and just saying we are pushing every chip we have in on. We are going to stop Mahomes. Like we haven't done it, and we are going to give ourselves the best possible chance to do it.
803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550. Would Crosby, would guys like that make a difference? I mean, you got to wonder. The scheme needs answers. Wouldn't Andy Reid just drop something else?
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't know. You got to try. I mean, right. You're going to keep trying. Keep knocking on the door.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, tomorrow, Rob Ray, Sabres Hall of Fame induction, Sabres Nashville. You and I are both going to the game.
Yep.
Together, too. We're all going.
Mm-hmm.
And my question for you is this. Do you want to commit to having the dog of the day now? Nashville.
100%. It can't be bad, right?
It's going to be a good dog, right? A Nashville dog?
Can't be bad. It's going to be something Nashville hot chicken, I would assume. I don't know what else would even be
like a
in
Nashville
the running.
Hot chicken tenderloin.
Yeah.
Cutlet, something on the dog.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be
pressed in there.
I'm into it. It has to be a good one. Unless they did. Could they do something with, like, in reference to the team? Like, Nashville Predators.
Hot pickles. The Nashville kind of pickle that's on there, too.
Yes. When I think Nashville, I'm thinking hot chicken, breaded hot chicken with those pickles and some sort of orangey sauce.
Remoulade. I'm going to go with remoulade. I'm not sure if it's a remoulade, but I'm going to say
that's the sauce?
Yeah, a remoulade is a Creole-style sauce. Mayo, mustard, hot sauce, spices, yeah.
Yeah, that's the move. With a hot dog underneath it all.
Who was the former Sabre? Remy Ellie.
Remy Ellie?
Remy's Remoulade dog.
They are not naming this dog after Remy Ellie.
Why not?
What percentage of the crowd tomorrow night is going to even know that person ever played for the Buffalo Sabres or existed? 3%?
All right.
Who's Legwand? He played for both. It's more famous.
Other crossovers. Paul Gostad.
There you go. A goose dog.
Goose dog. Sabres, Preds, crossovers. Man,
JP Dumont.
Yes, that's a good one.
He left here to go there. He was there forever, right? I think he still works for the team.
All these former Sabres that work all over the league, huh? All over the league.
Yeah, the